Hello, 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 everybody. It says I'm live, so hopefully that is true. Hopefully everything is going well. I'm going to check on my phone. I got the notification on my personal phone that I am live, so I think we are good. Just going to do a little bit of posting, a little bit of promo for the stream here. This is be posting around on the good old socials, making sure people know this is going on. This little preview you're seeing here, I actually made this right after I made the still garden. I made this little preview video, and the only time I ever used it was, hold on. It was when I was doing like a private screening for my friends and family. Because, like, I wanted other people to watch it before it was, like, out. Because I wanted to know if I made a piece of shit. Because I was really scared and I didn't know. But I made this as sort of like, you know, as my friends and family were coming in, you know. We hosted the screening at a family member's house. And, you know, as everybody was coming in, this was playing. You know, and I just had it on a loop like it is now. And I haven't used it since. But figured I'd use this stream to just sort of put it out in the world. So yeah, feature presentation starting soon. It's just a bunch of shots of the minefield. You know, it works. It's only 2 minutes long, but like I said, you loop it, and it's like long enough to provide a little bit of background noise, a little bit of background ambiance, you know, for build up and whatnot. I need to get something to fidget with, or else my hands are just going to grab random shit off my desk and I'm going to end up losing stuff. But anyways, got to make sure to not to minimize that, or else it will go black and you won't be able to see anything. So I'll give it a few minutes here before we get into the main content. Before we start commenting on the still garden itself, I will be going over some other stuff, namely the Autumn Lies Buried music video I did. There's an alternate cut that no one's seen. They have given me permission to sort of release it here in this sort of commentary stream. So we're going to be watching that. I'm going to let you guys in on a couple other things. And yeah, in fact, I need to edit VLC's playlist because I realized I forgot to put in the Death Range trailer. We'll put that third. But yeah, we've got different stuff to go over before we start commentating on the actual movie. That'll give some time for people to show up. It's hot outside, folks. Make sure to stay hydrated. Anyhow, let me see. Let me check on the chat. Nobody's in the chat yet, I don't think. This VOD should get saved automatically when this is done, so people can watch it after, including Billy, because Billy unfortunately cannot be here tonight to watch this. He had a dinner to go to, which is totally fine. You know, that's totally fine. I hope he enjoys this when he gets to watch it. And if you're watching sometime after this actually goes live, Billy, then hello. I hope you end up enjoying my commentary here. I'm going to give it another minute or two before we start the commentary on the alternate version of the Autumn Lies Buried music video. And then we will get started. We'll commentate on that, and like I said, there's a couple of things I want to show you guys. A couple of social media pages I want to make sure you guys are aware of, and other stuff. Minefield, 1989 to 20 something something. Will probably never be filled in, but that's kind of the point. I think I show the other one in the movie because he has two gravestones sort of in that little alley there. He's got the one for the minefield and one for him, Billy Tripp. And both are sort of styled in the same way. You know, it's got his birth year, which is, I'm pretty sure he was born in the late 50s. He's 69 currently. In 2 months, 3 months. In 3 more months, he's going to be 70. Man, time flies. He was, I think he was, trying to think. I think he was 66. Yeah, he was 66 when we filmed this movie. Billy was 66. And I was 25, wasn't I? Oh God, this is bad. Can't even remember how old I was. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I was 25. So I'm 28 now. It's been 3 years since we did the majority of filming on it. I did technically start doing it in 2021, but I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm already starting to get talkative and restless, so let's just go ahead and start looking at different stuff. Let me make this full screen. Let me jump ahead. Okay. Is this gonna... Oh, wait. This isn't right. This isn't... What the fuck is going on here? Okay. Let's skip 1 second. Okay. All right. So this is the Autumn Lies Buried music video. This is an alternate cut of the Autumn Lies Buried music video. So I became friends with these guys through doing my new documentary, Death Reigns. In case you didn't know, Death Reigns, new documentary, due out soon, about the Tennessee Metal Devastation Music Fest, which happens every year in Jackson, Tennessee. It's fucking awesome. It's going to happen again this year in October. Do not fucking miss it. If you live in Tennessee or you live in a neighboring state and you're within driving distance, it is a one-day festival, but it is all day, and it is fucking awesome. It's dedicated to underground metal bands, promoting underground metal bands, and Zach and Raven, who I'm personal friends with, who run the festival, have very good music taste. They always choose really good bands. The environment there is awesome. It's always a great fucking time. Do not fucking miss it. You'll have a blast, I swear. Anyways, so yeah, I met Autumn Lies Buried doing that documentary. We kind of hit it off. We got along really well, and they wanted to, back in December last year, shoot like a quick and dirty, not dirty in terms of content, but, quick and dirty, like low budget music video for a song off of their upcoming EP, which is now out. You can listen to it. I can't remember what the EP is called off the top of my head. Let me actually check. Hold on. The guys from Autumn Lies Buried, if they see this, they're probably cursing me right now. They're probably like, this motherfucker can't even remember the name of our damn EP. I hate how YouTube Music, a smaller artist will come out with new music, and YouTube Music will, for some reason, split the artist into like 2 profiles. It's stupid. New EP is called Mob Mentality. So the music video that this song is for. This song is called Debt of Silence, and it's from their new EP, Mob Mentality. Really good stuff. I haven't been listening to it a whole lot since it came out, but that's because, you know, they gave me the files for all the songs before it came out. I mean, back in December. So I've been listening to these songs for over 6 months now. So they're old to me, but it's all great shit. So if you like deathcore music, and they incorporate some rap in there too, in a really cool and hype way, in my opinion, definitely check out Autumn Lays Buried's new EP, Mob Mentality. But anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's watch the music video. Like I said, this is an alternate cut. This is not the cut that they released. When we filmed this, they wanted to do a skit at the beginning. And I wasn't too sure about doing a skit, but, you know, I filmed it anyway because it's, you know, what they wanted. I wanted to make them happy. They didn't end up going with the version with the skit, which is fine. But I just wanted to show it off anyway, because I did put it together, and, you know, it's kind of fun. So this first shot here, you can see it sort of fading in. We'll watch That's Kalen, the vocalist. Here comes Kane in a peeling flesh hoodie. Woohoo! We'll stop it. Let me just say a couple things here. So this, it was shot at a mini golf course. It was like a black light mini golf course. Very little planning or preparation for this. They just kind of told me where to show up. They sent me a video on Facebook the night before and sort of gave me a virtual sort of tour of the place. And I mean, it was all this was pretty much on the fly, more or less. But it ended up being a really cool venue for a music video. Let me skip back to where we were at. Oh, it's lagging the fuck. Quite a bit of peeling flesh rep in this music video. The drummer's wearing a peeling flesh t-shirt as well. Peeling flesh is awesome though. Oh, love this shot. So Kalen, the vocalist, actually recommended this shot. He saw a bunch of like the art on the wall. You know, it was glowing under the black light, and he was like, get a shot of me doing all the vocals against this piece of art. And I'm glad he recommended that, because it looks fucking awesome. As you can see, this was a really good venue for a music video. Like, it just created a really cool environment. And even though it was like low budget and, you know, we kind of did it all on the fly, because of their choice of venue here, it still looks really good. It still looks pretty cool. and they seemed satisfied with it. You know, I had never done a music video before in my entire life, so I felt incredibly privileged to be able to do this for them. And yeah, I mean, I had a fun time. I think it turned out badass. This skit's gonna come back here in a second. They
Man, fuck those guys.
What the fuck was that?
Who was that? That looks like somebody from... Hold on.
Man, fuck those guys.
Look, who's that? Who's that? That we needed some extras to complete the skit. We needed some angry people to walk out of the putt-putt golf course and be like, man, what the hell? So I had a hoodie in my car. I just threw on a hoodie to cover the metal band t-shirt. And then they had another friend there with them, so we were the little extras who went out of the venue all angry. But yeah, that's basically the main difference between the version that they released and this skit. They wanted a skit where, you know, basically they were coming in and wreaking havoc in the mini golf course, and also they wanted to give the mini golf course sort of free advertisement because they appreciated the mini golf course letting them film there. You know, I don't know if they paid anything to be there. I imagine probably not, if they wanted to give them free advertising. Look, this car right here, this is my old car. I don't have it anymore. I recently, you know, got rid of it, but this is my old car right here. You can see I've got an Autumn Lies Buried sticker right there. Hold on. You see I got my Minefield sticker there, and my like a succubus and American flag with a pentagram on it, H1Z1, Metal Devastation sticker, Minefield sticker, Smith Oddities. That part I'm really proud of, where they drive by and you hear the music blasting from inside the car. And the reason is that that audio is not native to the footage. But yeah, obviously without the sound of like music blaring from the van, it just looked like they were driving into the parking lot. So I wanted to add music blaring. So what I ended up doing was I took a Bluetooth speaker and played the song from it. But I wrapped it in this comforter behind me. I live in a 1-bedroom apartment, so my bedroom and my office are the same room. But I took this comforter off my bed and wrapped the speaker in my comforter and recorded the song that way. And it sounded, when I put it on the video, it sounded perfect. It sounded like it was coming from the car. So, I don't know. I'm really proud of that. But, pretty much, we had a good time shooting this. Turn that back down. The video is badass as hell. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I will say the other main difference between this one and the one they released is that shot right there. Hold on. That shot right there of the whole band. That ended up being taken out of the final cut. But yeah, other than that, it's pretty much the same music video. Main difference being the skit and then that one shot that we took out of the whole video. But yeah, this is the alternate version. And like I said, I was happy to work with them. It was a fun experience. I think we made something that's pretty badass. And like I said, I love the song. The whole EP is great. Autumn Lies Buried was at the past 2 years of Metal Devastation Fest. They were incredible. I actually knew about them prior. I saw them open for Dying Fetus in 2021. But I mean, they're a band that, in my opinion, that's really only gotten better and better. I remember when I first saw them in 2021, I thought they were good, but legitimately, they've only gotten better as time has gone by. So, yeah. Shout out to the Autumn Lies Buried guys if they're watching this. Much love. I think I'll probably go see their show in Nashville here in a couple weeks. So, I'll be seeing you guys soon if you are watching this. But all right, we'll go ahead and move on. I'm going to minimize this a little bit just to check on the stream. All right. Well, let's move on. We have a couple of updates, housekeeping things. Oh, what is... Whoa, 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 whoa. Do I have this on shuffle? I do have it on shuffle. God damn it. Okay. Okay. All right. In case you didn't know... Let me skip this. It's faded in a little bit. In case you didn't know... in 2024, I made a new documentary. As I said before, it's about the Tennessee Metal Devastation Music Fest. It happens every year in Jackson, Tennessee. It is awesome. It's happening again this year in October. Do not miss it. But made a documentary about that. You know, I discovered the fest the first year it happened in Jackson. It had a year. It happened previously the year before. In Lexington, but I was not aware of it at that time. But when it happened in Jackson, that's when I found out. I went, had a blast, heard about how it had caused controversy in this, you know, neck of the woods in West Tennessee, and that a bunch of brain-dead Bible thumpers had been protesting it and had nearly gotten it shut down a couple times. And, like, there was a mayoral campaign the year that I went for the first time. There was a mayoral campaign, and legitimately the festival was a talking point in the campaign. One of the conservative candidates in the race was speaking out against the festival because he was a dickhead. You know, I remember going and thinking, man, what a great fest, what a great story. Now, I wish I could make a documentary about that. Too bad I'll never meet I'll never meet the people who run it. But then, lo and behold, I end up getting my first tattoo here. I don't know if you can. Hold on. Can I show it? Can you see it? Sigil of Lucifer right there. So I wanted to get my first tattoo and ended up getting my first tattoo. And the tattoo artist, shout out to Juju, who runs Enchanted Inks Tattoo and Piercing Studio. But she was best friends with the people who ran the festival. And so she was giving me that tattoo, and she mentioned that, and I was like, no shit. And so that's how the documentary happened. She gave me Raven and Zach's contact info, and the rest is history. I talked with a bunch of bands involved and did a bunch of interviews. And then when last year's fest rolled around, I assembled a small crew, I assembled another documentary. And it's only played at one fest so far, and it had a private screening for friends, family, crew, people involved. You know, once again, just like the Steel Garden, a very small production. It had no budget. I was once again funding it out of my checking account. Bi-weekly paychecks here, people. That is what funded this movie. Any money I had left over from groceries, rent, and utilities. So here's the trailer for that. This is what I've got. Newest big project. It'll hopefully have a wide release here at the end of the year. More details on that later as I can release them. But I'm pretty sure it's going to play at least one other festival. Once again, details on this forthcoming as soon as I can. But I'm pretty sure it's going to play at least one other festival. You know, I more or less have confirmation. Not exact confirmation, not official confirmation, but, I've got some insider info. And then it's probably going to have a wider official release near the end of the year. Platform is picking it up, but I don't know if I can say much more than that at this time. But anyways, here's the trailer for that. It's Death Reigns, about the Tennessee Metal Devastation Music Fest. Oh, shoot. Hold on. Let me start the trailer.
King Morbid! We are Illusion of Faith, and I am King Morbid. We have traveled through the portals to Gur, and I brought with me the Head of God!
Unreal that this garbage would be had in our community. This isn't about Christianity, it's about there being a time and a place for all events. This event is a horrible thing for a Christian county to permit. The bands and their lyrics are clearly demonic. Time to call the mayor's office.
What the fuck is going on? God damn it, I'm Zach Moonshine.
My husband and I here run Metal Devastation Radio, Metal Devastation PR, and now the Tennessee Metal Devastation Music Fest.
Jackson, push somebody!
Two local churches started telling everybody there's this festival. It's demonic. They're trying to open a portal to hell.
I believe that they shut the whole stage down to keep the Metal Devastation Festival from coming.
They attacked, I think, almost every single band on the fest.
If I had to fight, I was ready to fight.
Let's give it up for domestic terrorism!
Autumn lies buried, ladies and gentlemen.
And I've always felt like a misfit toy.
It's just amazing. I was here for 10 years.
And I thought I was the only one.
Metal Devastation Music Festival opens up a place for people to come and go that they've never had before.
Give those motherfuckers a round of applause.
Yay!
All right. And that's
We
it.
are
That's
illusion
the
of
trailer.
faith.
I'll let the
And I
trailer
am
loop. I'll let the trailer loop a little bit while I sit here and talk about it. That's illusion. As you see in the trailer, that's Illusion of Fate. Gonna be seeing them again next week. Them and Summoner Circle, which Summoner Circle is a recurring band. They're there every single year at the fest. They're awesome. Gonna go see them and Summoner Circle again here in the next week. They have a show on July 5th in Knoxville. So I'm gonna drive down to Knoxville in East Tennessee. Bunch of metal bands out of Knoxville, man. We got Summoner Circle, Sun Mantra, who's also in the documentary, Quiescent Manus, who is also in the documentary, who's in the trailer for a brief moment there. Bunch of metal bands out of Knoxville. So I'm going to go to Knoxville, see my buddies in Summoner Circle, and see Illusion of Fate again. They put on such a killer show. They're in the documentary briefly, but like, good God, like they blew my socks off, man. I mean, their music sounded pretty good on album, but man, live, their stuff just hits different. That shot right there is of keyboardist for Summoner Circle. There's Dave from the Red Mountain. There is Megan from Casket Robbery. There's Miss Lisa Adkins. There's Autumn Lies Buried once again. Illusion of Fate once again right there. Now, you may notice there's a difference in quality of these shots. These shots right here were done by the amazing Fisher Jones. That dude should be making 6 figures a year. He just does videography on the side. And I just hired a few like local videographers who I could feasibly pay, once again from my checking account, just working a regular day job trying to get this made. And he was one of the guys who I hired, and I wasn't expecting a whole lot out of the people I hired, but oh my God, Fisher Jones fucking killed it. Shout out to Fisher Jones. If you live in West Tennessee, hire this guy for videography work. His stuff is incredible. It looks like $1 million. I tried to use his stuff in the movie as much as possible. And almost all the footage of the concert, specifically of the 2024 festival, is his stuff. In this trailer, I tried to exclusively use his footage of the 2024 fest because it just looks incredible. Like, it just looks fantastic. That's Carl Webb. Here's Dave with the Red Mountain again. Love them. Love the logo, dude. In the trailer I put, the red text, for normies who can't read, which I think that's a pretty readable death metal logo, in my opinion. But, this is a completely independent, funded from my bi-weekly paychecks from my day job movie. I was not beholden to anyone when I made this. So I was like, if I'm making a movie about a death metal festival, it's going to have a goddamn death metal logo. So I went to an artist. I paid them to make a death metal logo of the movie's title. And yeah, I think it looks great. Shout out to Luciferium War Graphics, who not only designed the title logo for the movie, but also the poster art, which is also here on this shirt. Boom, boom, boom. And this is not some exclusive thing. You can have a shirt of your own. Let me minimize this and show you something cool. Let me see. Let me add a source here. Microphone's in the way of my second monitor here, so bear with me. Okay, let's see. Window capture. Okay. Select a window to capture. Okay. Okay, well, we're going to briefly do a display capture then. Give me one moment here. Okay. All right, so very briefly, display capture here, so that way I can show you. Oh, hold on, let me resize this. You can get your very own Death Reigns shirt. Let me go over here. DeathReignsMovie.com. We got a website. Shout out to my buddy Steven Kitchens. Oh, wait, where did I go? Hold on. There we go. All right. Anyways, yeah, you can see the website right here. Real legit looking. Shout out to Steven Kitchens, who also did some of the video work for the movie. And it kind of like also doubled. Like, I kind of met him late in the game. He was already gonna be there, and then he agreed to help me with the movie, and he ended up using his footage and some of the footage of me and some of the other guys there, you know, in videos that he ended up putting on his channel. So it was kind of like a symbiotic thing. So worked with him on that, and he made the little website for me. So, you know, landing page, trailer, you hit shop now, and you can buy your own Death Reigns shirt. If you think it looks badass, you think it looks cool as fuck, if you live in the Bible Belt and you want to scare your local Bible thumper and make them think you're possessed by demons, you can buy your own Hell Portal shirt. As you saw in the Death Reigns trailer, a big thing about the protest to the festival was people thought it was a portal to hell. You know, so I thought it would be fitting if the poster for the movie was a portal to hell. So that's what I made the poster to the movie, and people really liked the poster, so I turned it into a t-shirt because I had some people asking for them. So here they are. Go ahead and get you one. I have size small to size extra large. $25 a pop. I will ship to the continental United States. So if you live within the continental United States, just place an order and I'll get it to you. There's some other stuff I want to show you guys related to Death Reigns. We do have a Bsky page, infrequently updated, unfortunately. I need to post some new stuff on there. But do have a Death Reigns Bsky page, so if you're on Bsky, you can follow Death Reigns and keep up to date with my latest documentary there. I will be posting like festival updates and release updates there. I also have a Facebook page for it. So if you are still using Facebook in 2025, you can like the Death Reigns page. Stay up to date there. You can send that one to your aunt, your mother, or your grandma. And we've got pages for the Still Garden, guys. I haven't posted anything to them yet. I was waiting for this stream, but I thought I have so much excess footage and pictures of the minefield and Billy and from everything that I did on the Still Garden that I think a social media page would be sustainable for a while if I posted a couple times a week. So I'm going to try to do that. So I've got a Facebook page for the Still Garden. I also have a Bsky page for the Still Garden. And I'm going to start updating these a couple times a week as I have time and just post different pictures and different video. Probably nothing super edited, you know. I want this to kind of be a casual thing. But I just want it to be fun. And, I mean, there's just so much, dude. I mean, the Still Garden as a movie does not even cover the full breadth of Billy's work over his lifetime as an artist. He doesn't even scratch the surface of his books, you know. And then on top of that, the footage that I shot, the pictures that I got and everything. I mean, there's just so much out there. So, yeah, I have social media pages. The Still Garden, at thestillgarden.bsky.social, at Bsky if you have one of those. And if you have a Facebook, you can follow it on Facebook. And like I said, I'll just be posting pictures, video. Some of it will be stuff that's already released. Some of it will be stuff that has never been on the internet before. Right now, actually, I am reading one of the newest Billy Tripp books right here. Minefield Years, Volume 3, Notebooks 8 and 9. This was just released along with 2 other books. Billy came by to my place of abode and dropped those books off. So I've been reading through those. Always very enjoyable to read a new Billy Tripp book. And Billy, if you're watching this, which I know you will be later, I do appreciate it. I have been enjoying this latest edition of Volume 3. Always like reading Billy's notebooks when I'm relaxing during the day. I find them to be very relaxing reads. And it's always incredible to me how a lot of his newer books, you know, are just sort of edited versions of his notebooks. But, you know, especially Volume 3, which are notebooks from the 90s, I mean, he didn't write these with intentions of them being a book. But even still, he has this very poetic way of expressing his thoughts and feelings. That's just, it's very peaceful and pleasant to read. And I really, really like reading it, like before I go to bed or when I get up in the morning. It's just really good reading material. Or like when I'm at work on lunch break, I might bring the book with me and read for like 15 minutes. It's just, it's a really nice mental cleanser. So anyways, I may be posting quotes from his books as well, because man, his books are full of some great quotes. So anyways, yeah, just to reiterate, we have social media pages for the Still Garden, Facebook and Bsky. We have social media pages for Death Reigns, Facebook and Bsky, and a website where you can, of course, get a t-shirt. I also wanted to say that I also have a Bsky. I actually nabbed this when Bsky was in beta, you know, because the beta used to be invite only. One of my friends ended up getting in, and then once they had an invite, they sent me an invite, and that's how I secured my handle before everything went public. So I've actually been sitting on this for a while. I've been sort of scoping Bsky out because, you know, a lot of these alternative social media platforms crop up, and sometimes they really suck. Actually, most of the time they suck, or they're full of like racists. Like just legitimately, like half the time I hear about some alternative social media site and I hop on it excited because I'm like, yeah, there needs to be competition against Meta and Twitter and YouTube, you know, and these giant tech conglomerates, right? And then I get on the platform and it's just racism, you know, or it's just absolute fucking degeneracy that I would not want to be publicly associated with. So usually I only have it for a very short period of time. And then I just either delete my account or forget that I even have one. In any case, Bsky is obviously not that way. Bsky, a lot of people from Twitter have migrated to it because Twitter's now a fucking cesspool. Thanks to Elon Muskrat. Fuck Elon Muskrat. not only ruins Twitter, but help ruin the country too. But we won't get into politics too much in this stream. Although I will say a big thank you to my continuing supporters, even though I have been using this channel to upload random stuff that I've been making that I don't know where else to put, you know? And so I've been putting, there were a couple of protests in Jackson, Tennessee that happened that I covered, like took, you know, video footage of, wanted to make something out of it. And I didn't want to just like sit on Facebook or something. So, you know, uploaded it to the Randall the Vandal channel, because why not? You know, I'm not doing a whole lot else on the channel right now. So, appreciate you guys, for those of you who watched those, and for those of you who are sticking around, even though, you know, those were political in nature. I do appreciate the support. But either ways, yeah, if you have a Blue Sky and you want to follow me there, I do have one. I'm going to try to start posting on it. Like I said, I've been sitting on it for a while. I wasn't sure if I wanted to sort of have a public Blue Sky, but I'm kind of thinking, yeah, why not? Why not? So you want to follow me there, I'm on Blue Sky as well. And just to reiterate, we also got the Still Garden on Blue Sky and Death Reigns on Blue Sky. But all right, let me remove this display capture here. Okay. Oh, wait. Dang. There was one more thing. Okay, hold on. Hold on. There's one more thing I needed to show you. One more thing I needed to show you, then we'll move on. Billy Tripp's Wikipedia page. I don't know if I've mentioned this in the past or not, but I actually wrote this Wikipedia page for him. It existed before. Before I did all this revision, there was one, so I didn't build it from scratch. There was one that already existed. I don't know who wrote it. I asked Billy, he didn't know. I'm not sure who wrote the original one, but it was almost nothing. I mean, it was like 2 paragraphs and that was it. I'm honestly surprised that Wikipedia allowed it to stay up, because it was up for a long time. So like this picture here and this picture here were in the Wikipedia article originally. As well as, I think, this picture. So these 3 pictures were uploaded by whoever originally created this Wikipedia page. But like I said, originally it was just like 2 paragraphs, and I expanded it into what it is now. I rewrote it when I was filming, so it would have been like early 2022, I want to say. But yeah, just wanted to throw it out there that he has that Billy Tripp has a Wikipedia page. It's a good resource if you want to get a general overview of him and his work. It obviously, because I revised it and added to it, I wanted to make sure everything was backed up with the source, so you can check out the sources and get even more information. Also, a little bit of shameless self-promo. Documented in the film Still Garden, and then later on documented in the feature film Still Garden, which had a premiere in Brownsville, Tennessee in February 2024 and was released online via YouTube the following month. And of course, we've got links to news articles that happened at the time of the Brownsville premiere. The local Brownsville news did cover that premiere of the Still Garden. That was cool. They interviewed me and Billy. I don't think my interview made the cut, but Billy's did. But Billy is, how do I want to put this? The movie's about him, so I think they were more interested in what he had to say, which is fine. I was totally fine with being the supporting character in the interview in the final cut. I was just happy that they included him. But anyways, so that was the final thing I wanted to show off, was the Wikipedia page. I did a total rewrite of it a couple years ago, and I'm not sure how public I made that. But I want information about Billy Tripp and the minefield to be as accessible and as public as possible. And Wikipedia is one of the best ways to do that. So, like I said, I rewrote this existing Wikipedia page, was created by someone else. No idea who made it. It was very brief, like 2 paragraphs total. I have a screenshot. I'm not going to pull it up on stream here, but I have a screenshot of what it used to look like. And oh my God, I can't believe Wikipedia allowed it to stay up because it had like 2 sources only for a whole 2 paragraphs. But anyways, so we'll move on from this. You can read Billy Tripp's Wikipedia page if you're interested. Like I said, it's a good starting point for getting into learning about his work and his life. But let me remove this display capture again, and we'll move on to the main event. Now, before we continue, I'm actually going to test the stream on my phone here and make sure that I can hear myself, because I'm not sure anybody. It's like only 2 people watching right now, no commenters, so I'm going to test this right now. Anybody? Yep, I am audible. Only 2 people watching right now. Just making sure, just being my own tester here. But okay. For anybody who just joined, we just watched the trailer for my dude documentary, Death Reigns. You can buy a shirt at deathreignsmovie.com. We also have social media pages for it on Bsky and Facebook. I also created social media pages for the Still Garden on Facebook and Bsky. I also have a Bsky, Randall the Vandal, so you can follow those accounts. And I also mentioned Billy Tripp's Wikipedia page, how it was pre-existing, but it had very little information, and I revamped it a couple years ago. But at this point, we're going to get on to the main event. We are going to get on to the Steel Garden itself. Before I start the movie, I just want to say, if you're watching this and you've never seen the Steel Garden before, please do not watch this as your first exposure to the Steel Garden, because not only am I going to be commentating over it, I'm like going to be pausing and like rewinding, like kind of like what you saw, what I did with the Autumn Lies Buried music video and the Death Range trailer. That's what I'm going to be doing for the Steel Garden. So it's not going to be an optimal first time viewing experience. Obviously, you can do what you want. I'm not going to be pissed off or anything, but just know that you can watch the movie for free on YouTube. You can also download it via torrent, and the link for that is in the description of the YouTube video. And you can get a bunch of exclusive goodies that are not available publicly online if you download it via torrent. But so you can watch it for free, whether that be via YouTube or torrent. So if you've never watched it before, you can go watch the official YouTube stream and then come back to this commentary stream, because the VOD will get uploaded after we're done here. So all right, let's go on to the movie.
I'm Laura. Laura, how you pronounce your last name?
This will be the first time I've watched this in
Ray. And Liesel. Hi, I'm Liesel Testament. Nice to meet you.
probably a year and a half.
Are representatives of the Kohler Foundation. They are meeting with Billy
Shaky
Tripp,
ass
who will
fucking
be
camera
showing
work
them around
here.
the property. They will be
Don't know who the
inheriting
cameraman was, but he should have been fired.
property, which includes his massive steel sculpture.
If he was in the room with me
minefield,
right now, I would
which
just
the foundation
give him a
will
piece of
work
my
to
mind.
preserve according to Billy's wishes.
I think it's important.
Okay, so first thing I kind of want to comment on, like I said, I'm going to be pausing the movie. This right here. So I was really hesitant to start off the movie with ... begin, because it kind of seemed amateur, especially since I did with this with like no budget. So it kind of felt like, oh man, amateur hour. But I wanted to start the movie off with ... begin, because if you know anything about Billy, you know anything about his work, you know anything about the minefield, that specific word, like punctuated like that, is important to his work. It's the very first and last word of his first book, The Sycamore Trees. And it is featured at least 3 times, if not 4 times, in the minefield itself. And so it's sort of like a word and a phrase that's very important to Billy and sort of like his own personal philosophy. And so I felt not only was it an appropriate way to start the movie, but also by the time I sort of got to like seriously editing it together, I was pretty much making this movie for Billy, you know, and I wanted this to be the first thing that Billy saw. I wanted it to be a pleasant surprise for him. And so that was the main reason I started the movie out like this. That's the main reason that this is the first shot, is because I wanted Billy to see this, for this to be the first thing that he saw and be pleasantly surprised by it, because I knew it would mean a lot to him, and it just feels appropriate, you know. Like I said, it's the first word of his first novel. You know, it's literally chapter 1, and it's just this ... begin. So, I mean, like I said, with the 2 movies that I've made, I'm beholden to nobody. I make them out of my own pocket, out of my bi-weekly paycheck. So I can do what the fuck I want. So this meeting with the Kohler Foundation happened in February of 2022. And I remember when Billy told me about it and told me it was happening, it was going to happen. You know, he wanted me to film it. I knew, I was like, this is potentially the beginning of the movie. And I ended up, you know, using it as the beginning of the movie, even though that day was so dog shit. Like everything, almost everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. I showed up and it was way colder than I thought it was going to be. And I was not prepared for cold weather at all. And so I was shivering the whole time. Mind you, I didn't have shit when I filmed this movie. You know, this movie. I had a Canon DSLR that shot like the crappiest 1080p you've ever seen in your life. I think this shot right here is from my phone. So that's what I was working with. My phone, my Samsung Galaxy S21. I'm pretty sure it was an S21 or an S20. So my Samsung Galaxy S21 and a Canon Rebel T7, I want to say. A Canon Rebel T7 that shot like really crappy 1080p. So that's what I had. Didn't have a gimbal, didn't have any sort of steady cam or anything. So I was holding my camera with my hands on this cold day, shivering. So almost all the footage I have from this meeting, aside from inside, because inside I had 2 tripods, thankfully. And so I was able to stabilize it. But like this right here, where you can see it's shaky, you know, I was shivering. And even though that's kind of shaky, literally, the shots that I have here are the best seconds of footage I have from that entire, because I have minutes and minutes of footage of them walking around the minefield and Billy showing these ladies from the Kohler Foundation around the minefield and telling them about it. But I couldn't include any of it in the movie because I was shivering so bad that it just would have given everybody motion sickness to watch it. It just would have been terrible. Like, originally, my idea was the opening was going to be a little slower, you know, as Billy showed these ladies around his minefield, and I felt like that was going to be a really good introduction. But the footage was just so unstable. I just couldn't use most of it. And so as a result, it ended up being the perfect excuse to start the movie off with narration, which I was going to have to do some narration in the movie anyway, because there's so much to tell with Billy Tripp and his work that there was no way to just visually depict it all. Like, I realized that I had to encapsulate some of it in like some narrative exposition in order to consolidate it. So I ended up using the failures of this day to start the movie off with exposition and just establish from the get-go that this was a movie that features exposition. So yeah, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit.
We'll figure the complexity of it out. Well, I don't think it's going to be moving. No, I don't need.
Oh, during this part, so this is the Canon. This is the Canon Rebel. I used the Canon Rebel essentially as like a close-up camera. A really shitty close-up camera. Once again, just using my hands. I don't have a gimbal or anything. Also, another horrible thing about that Canon Rebel the lens was so loud. It was I had like the stock lens. It was like 18 to 35 millimeter, and that lens was so loud when it zoomed or focused. When you did the focus ring, you could audibly hear it, and you can audibly hear me focusing several times in the movie. And most of the time when I zoomed, you could hear it as well, especially if I went all the way to one extreme. So if I zoomed all the way out or all the way in, you could hear a like a click, like when it stops, like when it's hit its limit, because the mechanics of the lens was so noisy and like not meant for video. I didn't buy the camera specifically for the movie.
My name is Randall.
It was the kind of camera that I had taken photography classes on, and the camera that I had taken photography classes on, I didn't have anymore, so I just kind of like bought one as a replacement.
Mysterious man who I only knew of through urban legends and town gossip.
But anyway, so yeah, very bad, very noisy camera. It also shut off by itself every 12 minutes. And at first I thought that was just to do with SD cards, but no, it's not. It's just built in that you can't film anything longer than 12 minutes. You can't film anything longer than 12 minutes on that Canon Rebel. So that was also a nightmare to deal with. I'm going to go back a few seconds here. So I want to point out something in the narration.
My name is Randall Kendrick.
One thing that I'm not sure was clear when I edited this together, but
Except the oddities in their family or
let it play out for a second.
You know, the better it is. You know,
I used to
by point of view.
My name is Randall Kendrick.
I don't know if it was clear the way I put that together, but the Kohler Foundation knew that there was going to be filming going on when they arrived, so they more or less didn't pay attention to the camera. But there was a point where they did eventually acknowledge me and talk to me after they were done talking with Billy about his will. And I felt like the way it unfolded was just kind of like the perfect way for me to go about introducing myself, because it was such a low budget movie and because I felt so insecure at the time, and, you know, to a certain extent still do, but not as much as I did when I was making this. You know, so I felt like it was a good segue to have the narration come back in and have sort of like an explanation as to why this movie exists. And so the segue was supposed to be, I think her name is Cecil. I don't even know. Their names popped up on screen, I think, and I can't even. Anyways, when she asked, "Are you a student?" that was supposed to be sort of the segue. And my intention there was it was supposed to be clear that she was sort of like looking past the camera, but I don't even know if you can really tell, to be quite honest. It's probably not totally clear, but that was the way I wanted to do it, and that's the way I ended up doing it. Regardless of if that transition is clear, you know, whatever. It works. I've never had anybody complain about it.
I was born in Brownsville, Tennessee, the home of the minefield. Growing up in Brownsville, the minefield was an oddball feature of the small town, and its creator was a mysterious man who I only knew of through urban legends and town gossip.
Urban legends and town gossip, that is the one thing, if I could go back in time and do this movie again, that I would change. I did not. There are so many urban legends about this man. If you are not from West Tennessee, if you have not spent a significant amount of time in Brownsville or small towns in West Tennessee in general, you do not know about the crazy ass conspiracy theories surrounding Billy Tripp. Because he is a reclusive person, he doesn't he's a friendly person, you know, he'll talk to you, but he doesn't get out in public a lot. He stays to himself. And so because of that, and because of what he does, it has lent an opportunity for people to go wild with their imaginations. I mean, people believe the wildest things about this man. I grew up hearing that he was just, like, in general, like a crazy person. I heard he was a Satanist, like a devil worshiper. A lot of people to this day believe he's like some kind of coked out drug addict who lost his mind. Some people think he lost his mind after he fought in the Vietnam War, which is just abhorrently untrue because by the time Billy graduated high school, the Vietnam War was over. So he couldn't even be drafted. You know, he wasn't even of drafting age. He was too young to fight in Vietnam. But some people believe that. Some people think he lost his marbles because he fought in Vietnam. Other people think that someone in his life died and it caused him to go insane and become addicted to drugs. And that's why he does what he does. There's all kinds. If you know anybody who lives in West Tennessee, specifically in small towns in West Tennessee, and they've never watched this movie or they don't know much about the Minefield or Billy, you ask them their opinion. They'll have some crazy, crazy shit to say. I guarantee it. That is the one thing I wish I could go back and document and have in the movie that was not in the movie. The only person that I was able to get on camera that was saying crazy shit like that was a guy over at the car wash next to the Minefield. And he was one of the people who was convinced that Billy had fought in the Vietnam War. And I actually tried to talk sense to him. And I was like, actually, I've read his books and I know how old he is and when he was born. And he actually was never old enough to be drafted in the Vietnam War. Like, that's just physically not possible. He didn't serve in Vietnam. And he would not listen to reason. He was like, no, he served in Vietnam. That's why he's doing this. He's processing his PTSD, bro. I couldn't talk sense into the guy. But that was the only guy I got on camera saying stuff like that. And because it was the only instance, you know, maybe it's because of a lack of skill on my part, but I couldn't figure out a way to naturally fit it into the movie. And that whole topic in general of like urban legends and conspiracy theories around Billy. So I just left it out. But like I said, if I could go back in time, that would be the one thing that I would just double down on and just like triple my efforts to try to get more footage of and get in the movie. Because man, that shit is wild. And it just goes to show that, small towns, they can be interesting places to live in. You could say a lot more about that, but I'm going to leave it at that. Let me get a drink of water while the rest of this intro plays. A few years ago, I became fascinated with this sculpture. I could find very little information about it despite its 30 years of history, and the existence of it and its creator was rarely acknowledged outside of Brownsville. So I decided to make this documentary to uncover the secrets of this massive piece of art and learn about the person who made it. I don't have money, experience, professional equipment, or a crew, but I do have the determination to see this project through to the end. So if you're watching this, then hopefully you'll find that was enough.
Good morning.
Oh.
Did it startle you?
Yeah.
Title. Boom.
So tell us who you are and
My
what you
name
have.
is William Blevins Strip. And nobody knows me by that name. And they know me by Billy Strip, which I really like.
As you can tell, I know every single second of this movie. Billy, I really miss you, man. We got to get together soon. Watching him on screen is making me a little emotional. I did, well, I won't pull it out, but the shot of, you know, where you can kind of like see me driving down the road, you know, from the perspective of the windshield. I had like this little, like those jobby tripods. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but like they're little plastic like orbs that are together with rubber around them. If anybody knows what I'm talking about. I had one of those, but it was really small and shaped like a dog, and it was meant for your phone, to clamp to your phone. And I had one of those around my rear view mirror, clamped onto my phone, and that's how I got that shot. I just wanted to say that because it was such a hillbilly rig situation, but it worked for my purposes. And there's one or two other shots that I got with that method from my car. That I don't know, it just kind of worked out, and no one's, you know, little things behind the scenes like that are just like super unprofessional, but they work, and it's just like nobody knows, and it's just kind of like, I don't know. I just wanted to say that's how I got the shot. God, this Canon camera looks like shit.
I started my minefield in 1989 and have been working on it as much as I can ever since. What you see today is the result of that and a lot of playing around and sitting around and thinking about it.
This is one of the few art exhibits that have been composed
Mr.
by
David
one person and one person
Livingston.
only. The only help Billy has had is the concrete footings.
I don't think I included, so, you know, if you've watched this before, you know that there was a documentary about the minefield before mine called It's Still America. And in that documentary, David Livingston is in that too, but that was before he was the mayor of Haywood County. That was back when he was a lawyer. I didn't include any of that interview in the movie, I don't believe. Not to my memory anyway. So that way I didn't confuse the audience. I tried to make it very clear whenever clips of that movie were showing, especially to pay respects to the filmmakers who made that. You know, I didn't want to take credit for their work at all. You know, when I contacted them, you know, when I was making this, they were totally cool with me using that footage. And they're cool people in general. I talked to them a little bit afterwards. I think they ended up watching this and really liking it. So shout out to those guys. I've got their names credited in the credits here at the end, so I'll give them a shout out at the end. But anyways,
by a local contractor.
These photos here are from Billy Tripp himself. Those two photos there.
Brought here from another location, was disassembled by Billy, was
we'll go back here for a second.
By a local contractor here. Every exhibit that you see
was shot right over here,
from
right here. This right here is a little light. Billy has lights on the minefield that illuminate it at night. But when I was filming this movie, the lights were broken, and he didn't really feel like fixing them. So that's one thing that I wasn't able to include in the documentary, of at least like footage of my own, because those lights weren't working. He has them working now, though. Somebody shooting fireworks celebrating 4th of July early, I guess. At least I hope it's fireworks. Anyways, yeah, so there's lights on the minefield that light up, and he got them fixed recently. So now at sunset, the minefield lights up for 2 hours. So if you're driving through West Tennessee, stop by Brownsville, see the minefield, and go close to sunset and see the minefield light up. It's a very beautiful sight if you've never seen it lit up at night. That was another thing I wish I could have included in the movie, but alas, the stars didn't align. But there's plenty of documentation of that online. Fred Scruton, who's featured in the movie and whose photos are featured in the movie, he has pictures of it.
Location was disassembled by Billy, was reassembled, and whatever.
Just David Livingston talking about how Billy Tripp is the GOAT.
He's a one-man show.
Because I know Billy will be watching this later. GOAT stands for greatest of all time.
He works without a harness. He set the top to the fire tower. He had the crane. And
I still think the minefield grill is shut down. To my knowledge, it's still not totally back up and operational. It has new owners.
And set it down.
And I think they just occasionally open it up.
Horrified because we kept thinking, it's too heavy. It made us, I mean, we were waiting for him to just.
As long as one is growing, there's always a newness around in that which one is growing into.
Man.
So you may have that type of higher level of concern or awareness about safety.
God damn.
But as far as just generally working in the minefield and working with my equipment, I'm pretty comfortable. Remember I said the first time up anything new.
Just gotta pause it to take that in for a minute. I love everything about that, man. The way that Billy talks, like I said, it's reflecting of his journalistic writing. He's just so poetic in the way that he talks, and then I don't want to compliment the movie because I did everything on it, but I do like the way that this is cut together. If it's any consolation, this has been years removed. I mean, I put this together in 2022, so 3 years ago. But you know, retrospectively, I really like the way that sequence was cut together, and him hanging off the ladder, which is only suspended by a hook. I don't know if I got that across clearly, but like earlier in the shot, let me go back. Earlier in this shot right here, that's the ladder he's hanging off of later. You know, when he's setting up a ladder to get on this ladder that's suspended from that hook, and only that hook. You know, and this is the ladder. This is the ladder he's climbing up.
But as far as just...
And that was the first time he was climbing up the ladder. And he gave me a warning because I was like, dude, that looks really dangerous. Like, it's just suspended from this one hook. And he was like, it'll be fine. He's like, I'll probably hesitate for a minute, but I'll find my way up there, and, you know, I'll get it secured, and it'll be good. And, yeah, this is, yeah. Oh, also, what I mentioned earlier about when I zoomed in all the way and you could hear you could hear that. Let me turn it up.
Higher level of concern or awareness about safety. But as far as just it's that shitty ass Canon Rebel lens, that stock lens. I didn't have the money to get any other lens for that camera, so anytime I zoomed or focused or did anything, you could audibly hear it. I kind of like it though. I kind of like it though. It gives it a really low budget feel. Maybe other people don't feel that way, but it kind of worked. It kind of worked. Working in the minefield and working with my equipment, I'm pretty comfortable.
Remember I said the first time up anything new.
And when he was saying the first time up anything new, he was sort of like referencing back to, again, what he had told me about, like, well, the first time up anything new, I'll be slow as I climb it, and I'll be really careful. And so when he got up to the top, he said, remember what I said about the first time up anything new?
The sprayer's set up just so, the paint's there, all the tools he needs, his mask, his clothes, everything's there. He sets himself up for success.
I think the interview I did with Beth Tripp was the best interview that I did the entire movie. And it was the second one.
Billy is an extremely good welder.
Yeah, it was the second interview that I did. Shout out to Beth Tripp. She's awesome. She's a very nice person.
Exactly what he does. The uniformity.
You know, she did not have to be involved. She's usually not involved in a lot of Billy's, like, publicity stuff, I guess. I mean, to my understanding, like, if there's some kind of speaking event, sometimes she speaks on his behalf and stuff like that. But, like, whenever there's, like, news coverage, for example, my understanding is she usually doesn't want to be on camera. So I really appreciate her participation and being in this movie, because I think her interview made the movie. I think without her interview, this movie would not nearly has been as impactful as it has been to the people who've watched it.
He draws. My dad always said he was the best welder he ever saw.
I have so much goddamn footage of Billy welding. I remember when I first started, I was like, oh, I gotta make sure to get this footage of Billy welding. I don't know how much more. I don't know how much more of it he's gonna do. A lot. Oh, I should. This is probably a good time to mention. You'll see other shots of him welding. So, what I did, because obviously looking at a welding spark is very dangerous for your eyes. So what I did was I didn't look in the viewfinder of the camera. I just looked at, like, the little screen, the little display monitor of the camera, and cupped my hands around the camera so I couldn't see anything other than the display monitor of the camera. And that's how I shielded my eyes from the welding spark and shot at the same time. God.
Cool dude, and he let it be known that
so unsafe.
He was.
I would do it again, though.
Of an artist.
There's Bill Hall, man.
He was interested in taking the tire down and reconstructing it.
Went to Kentucky to go talk to him.
Shortly after I had sold it to him, I drove by there one day and...
This is one thing that's not really extensively covered, but all the stuff that's on the water tower, you know, it's sort of eroded over the years, but it used to have a lot of stuff on it, and a lot of it is sort of like eroded. You can't read it as well. This side right here has Brownsville, and this side is supposed to say, in honor of Turd. You know, and it's just like, that's just something funny that Billy put on it. But I don't know. Just wanted to point that out. It's a little rusted now, but there are some older pictures in the movie of the tower where you can sort of see it in its former glory, so to speak. But I like the way it looks now.
Because I looked up and he has a rope tied from the very top of the center of the tire around his waist
about the way that it's sort of chipped away and rusted over the
side
years.
Of the globe with a cutting torch, cutting pieces out, and I thought, oh my gosh, I've sold him that, and now he's going to get killed on it. I sort of half-heartedly regretted selling it to him, but I didn't realize.
I was very glad to find online. I found that article clipping through Google. Was very happy to find that.
And he traveled at night to Brownsville to take those pieces.
Billy's Satan Saves truck.
Down there, and
back when I was a kid, his truck said Satan Saves. That's why everybody thought he was a Satanist. Dude, that reminds me. So, I posted about this movie a couple times on Reddit, and I had somebody comment, you know, somebody, I don't know if they were from Brownsville, they visited Brownsville, and they tried to claim that he was a crazy devil worshiper, and he had Satan Saves on his truck until someone scratched it off. Like, someone was really angry, and they, like, scratched Satan Saves off his truck, and I had to set the record straight, and I was like, dude, first off, Billy's not some, like, crazy person. Second off, nobody vandalized his truck. His wife asked him to remove Satan Saves from his truck. Which we learn later in the movie, of course. Look, there's the old picture I was talking about.
Where the edge of the burner would be.
And that's in that picture you can see.
Those pieces. Got them all down there and somehow figured out how to put them all back up.
You can see where it says honor of Turd right there.
That's where the edge of
this shot was with my phone. Samsung Galaxy S21.
That would be one edge, and that brick, that brick right here.
During my time with Billy, I had the privilege of watching him construct the next large
That was
piece
during
in
the winter.
mine
That was
field.
during like January
A 40-foot tall
February
wood
before he
burner
started
salvaged
work on
from
the,
Selmer, Tennessee.
on the Terminus Temple. Him making this circle was actually pretty far into making the Terminus Temple. Well, hold on. Yeah, it was pretty far into him making the Terminus Temple. You know, in the movie, you see him prepping the pieces. He sands them and welds them, corrects imperfections, primes it, and paints it. You know, so he did all of that to pretty much all the pieces, and then he did this. But it made more sense in the movie. For the sake of the movie, it made more sense if I presented it to the audience as him doing this part of it first. It just, in a visual sense, made more sense.
Figured it, you know, I
in my
I have
estimation.
14 of those. So how many 14 of that many links around the perimeter, you know, would be the circumference.
But that's the cool thing about making a documentary. You can sort of mess around with the chronology of things to suit what your storytelling needs are. Also have a lot of footage of him moving these pieces around. So much. I mean, there's, you know, some in the movie, but a lot. I mean, because it was like a whole, like, 10-minute process usually for him to move that piece from one part of the field to the other. There's the sanding. Got a lot of footage of this too, man. A lot of footage. Anybody ever wants just like a 3-hour? Oh God. Oh, this gun is so loud. Vibrating the rust out of it. If anyone ever wants like a 10-hour ASMR Billy metalworking sounds to study, relax, and sleep to,
let me know, because I probably have 10 hours of footage of all of that you just saw. The brushing, the grinding, the big vibration gun, all of it. Oh my God. I've got it sitting around on hard drives. I haven't gotten rid of it. Oh man, this is one thing that really makes me really happy that I did this, because very sadly, Anthony Turner's museum and barbershop is no longer there. The building is still there, but Anthony Turner kind of went through some stuff after I finished the Still Garden, and he decided not to keep pursuing the museum and the barbershop in the way that he was, and he just kind of got rid of the whole thing. So this is my movie here is not the only place his museum was documented, but man, it makes me really glad that I did include it in the movie, because it's not there anymore. Wow. So has that changed?
That have changed. I think he got permission from the city now to be buried in the ground directly underneath the canoe. You see the canoe on top?
Anthony also gives guided tours of the minefield for those who come from far and wide to experience.
Dude, I went probably a little overboard with blurring faces of people who did not consent to be in the movie. So obviously I got this wide shot of these tourists coming by. And honestly, the camera quality is so crap, you probably couldn't identify these people anyway if you zoomed in. But just to be safe, I was so on edge about like including people's faces who didn't explicitly like consent to be in the movie that like I blurred their faces out anyway in Premiere.
The sculpture.
So I looked it up last night. I said, Brownsville, big sculptures, and we found it.
It's unlike anything that you've seen before, so it's very intriguing. It draws you in.
It looks.
The ironic thing is that lady's got like a phone and a gimbal, and her footage probably looks better than the footage that I got of her on this shitty Canon DSLR.
Very dystopian in a way when you first see it.
This guy, man,
which I really.
He was the first tourist I ever interviewed. I interviewed him in December of 2021. He was all the way from the Netherlands. I didn't really want to put a bunch of information on screen because, these tourists aren't on screen for a long time. But this guy, he was all the way from the Netherlands, and he wanted to go on a road trip through the United States. That was sort of like the trip that he was on. He wanted to go to the United States and just go on a road trip throughout the whole country. And one of his stops on his planned trip was the minefield. And that's just crazy, man. There's people from all around the world who come to see the thing, man. It is a real tourist destination. Billy does not commercialize it or charge people to see it because that's just who he is. He's not interested in making money off of it. But as you saw earlier, I mean, there's signs in Brownsville pointing people to it because people legitimately come to Brownsville just to see the minefield. People who live in West Tennessee, and you kind of see it later on in the movie, but it doesn't really fully encapsulate how much people in West Tennessee take the minefield for granted. They don't see it as this giant, magnificent, one-of-a-kind art piece. They just see it as this weird thing that's in Brownsville. It's always been there. It's kind of crazy, honestly. But yeah, that guy was from the Netherlands.
I think of probabilities. A small town like this has maybe the most unique person that I've ever. I mean, this is incredible.
That couple there, I'm pretty sure they were from Washington, if I remember correctly.
An accident on 40, had to divert. Came around the square and I saw one water tower, then I saw a fire tower, and then another fire tower, and I thought, what is this? So I had to slow down.
Meet.
Check it out.
Is it 5.0 this year or 6.0?
I have to put my feet
happening as always in August
on these
brackets. If you live in the West Tennessee area, come out to Minefield Meet Ken Herron, fly a couple drones around the minefield. You may even get to see Billy Tripp too.
That's why it takes
it's a good event
to climb up.
I go every year.
The fact that I'm 54 years old.
After discovering the minefield, Ken Herron forged a relationship
also, shout out to
with
him
Billy
after
through filming him with his drones.
I say after I
Every
made the
year,
movie. It was kind of while I was making it, but he gave it to me kind of when I was wrapping up filming, so I didn't end up using it But he gave me a gimbal, which I still have and still use. Huge shout out to Ken Herron, man. He's got a heart of gold. Heart of gold, that man.
Hosts a meetup for drone enthusiasts. The biggest
Go
tourist
subscribe
event
to his
at the
channel,
Mind
Ken Herron.
Field.
He does a bunch of drone stuff. He does a bunch of cool stuff. He does other videos about the minefield as well. Once again, blurred faces because I was so paranoid about that.
Yeah,
it's very cool. We weren't expecting to see you today.
Once again, blurred faces because they did not explicitly consent to being in the movie.
I did.
How did you come to have this idea?
Well, I was working small in metal stuff, and I just had it stored here.
Oh, yeah.
And I just like working with my hands. I'll let them go before I go back out there.
My idea for that sequence was like, he would run into these tourists and they would ask him questions, and it would almost always be the same questions over and over. And so my idea for that sequence was to cut different instances of him talking to tourists together, so you get the sense that they ask the same questions over and over without actually showing the full conversation each time. So, you know, a tourist asks a question, he answers the question, but he's talking to a different set of tourists. A tourist asks a question, and it's a totally different tourist. He answers the question, but once again, he's talking to another set of tourists. You know, and, you know, hopefully that made sense, you know, for people who watched it. When they get to this, when he says, I'm going to wait for them to leave, like I don't want to talk to them. You know, when it gets to that part, hopefully that communicated why he said that. It's because, you know, that gets annoying, and, you know, he doesn't want to answer the same questions all the time.
Rather somebody visit and leave me a message or send me an email, then, you know, I really don't want to talk to people. You know, I'm glad they had a good time. And most times they can get, I feel like they can get what they want without me.
One of the only shots of painting or priming in the movie that I included, because every single time that he started painting or priming, me and Billy, we just started talking, man. We just talked and talked and talked, and I loved talking to him, so I wasn't going to pass up a conversation, but it did mean that the vast majority of footage that I got of him priming and painting was absolutely unusable. Because otherwise, I could, like, sync it up to other audio that I had, but, like, that would have been so tedious, you know, because the brush strokes and the way that he brushed would have been different, right? So it wouldn't have synced up. So, yeah, I didn't include a whole lot of painting and priming in the movie, even though I have a lot of footage of that, because every single time he started painting or priming, it was such a quiet, menial activity that every single time he was just kind of like, okay, well, so what's going on in your life? Or he brings up some topic and it just spurred on a whole hour-long conversation. Man, me and Billy had such a good time when we were hanging out making this. We had such a good time. It was a fun song, man. I would do it 100 times over. 100 times over. This Canon DSLR looks and looked, when it went to the California Capitol Documentary Film Festival, I actually had one of the festival organizers come up to me and tell me about how beautiful he thought the movie looked.
Despite positive reception by tourists, within Brownsville, Billy's work has sparked a variety of small controversies throughout the years.
Shocked me, because I think it looks like trash. And here's
in the late
that first
2000s, Billy hired
about.
a film crew to make It's Still America, a short film documenting the town's mixed reaction to his work.
I think the larger and better story of the minefield is the community side to it.
Most everybody's got an opinion about the minefield. There's some folks in the community who don't think the minefield speaks very well of the community.
Some of the artwork, it kind of messes with you, if you will, for lack of a better phrase. It teases you. And that's one thing for an adult, but when you've got a 6-year-old in the car with you and they want to know what that means, and it's right in the middle of town, it puts you in a situation.
When I got a little uncomfortable about it was when he threw those Barbie dolls up on the top and painted them green.
The Barbie dolls.
And something about that.
Shout out to Hayden Hooper. What a great person.
Dolls
Haven't talked to her in a
were.
minute. Hope she's doing well.
And people became very upset because they were nude.
I've had a call from a lady who
naked Barbie dolls
was complaining about it, and I asked her what her complaints were.
Reminds
and she told
me of all these newer
newer
anime fans getting into anime and they're complaining because the anime characters have a little bit of cleavage or something. Get the fuck over it, you little bitch. It's like, come on. Stop being so puritanical. It's art. You scared of the human body? Like, come on now.
That the Barbie dolls on the statue had pierced nipples, and I said, ma'am, I can't hardly tell that they're Barbie dolls. I said, how can you tell that they have pierced nipples? She said, I'm looking at them in binoculars. I said, well, you certainly don't have much to do.
Look, they're dolls. Your child plays with stuff like this.
I think somebody should make an electronic like song or a hip hop song based off of the sounds of the tink tink tink, like the little hammer thing that he did and this little buzzsaw thing. I challenge any like musician watching this to take either this buzzsaw sound or the little hammer tink 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 and like create a beat out of it. I think that'd be the coolest shit ever.
And then when I started painting the water tank, I think some people thought I might put something up there that was really inappropriate. I got word of mouth that a petition was being circulated around town trying to get me to stop, you know.
Or welding.
You make me mad.
Once again, had
or
my
anything
hands
like that. I
cupped
wasn't
over
like
the
going to take
camera.
action and this is horrible. I just didn't understand it. Because I didn't know how far he was going to go with
So
that.
glad that Hayden agreed to me in the movie.
Crudeness.
Such a fantastic
and
story about how she sort of like turned her opinion around on the minefield.
Middle of our town, and it kind of makes it look like those messages are what Brownsville stands for as a town if you don't know what that is. And he would put provocative things on it.
I had to
I'm
use
for gay
pictures
rights,
of these
but
signs.
Personally, I like women.
These are pictures provided by Fred Scruton. Shout out to Fred Scruton, great photographer. He's also in the movie. But I had to use pictures of the signs because the signs that I'm showing here are no longer in the minefield. According to Billy, specifically for the gay rights one, the chains holding it up started rotting, and so he just took the signs inside.
He would put things about Christianity. Oh,
There's
I know
just
his truck
chickens
said
hanging off
Satan
of that one.
saves. Oh,
Tom
glory.
Morgan.
I mean, how are you going to go put something like that
Satan
on your truck
saves,
right in the middle of
be
the Bible Belt?
self-righteous.
In Haywood
That
County,
reminds me,
there's
I need to
population
make a
somewhere
shirt run
between
of those.
18 to
and sell 'em.
19,000 people. There
Probably
is
nobody will
somewhere
buy
in
them,
excess
but it'll make me
of
happy to
100
have
churches
one.
here. And so if you take those two numbers alone, then you know that there are a lot of people here who are deeply religious and very strong in their conviction. If you put a sign in front of them that says Satan saves, you're asking for it.
There's not a time when the Satan Saves truck drives through Brownsville that Chamber doesn't get 3 or 4 phone calls.
If you can hear fireworks in the background, I deeply apologize. I think I have some people in my city celebrating 4th of July early. And I, for the life of me, don't know why. I don't know why they couldn't wait till next week, but, you know, whatever.
Oh, somebody said, Joe, can you not do something about that? I said, no, I can't do nothing about that. I said, you know, it's still America.
People would question me as to what he meant by that. And one day I
pictures
asked
by
him,
Billy right there.
What do you mean by Satan saves? And he
Billy
said it's just a
Tripp used to
reminder
take
to him
so many
personally
pictures. Maybe he still
that there's
does.
an alternate view.
But I have folders and
of things
folders
in
full
life.
of pictures that
So many
Billy Tripp
people were
took
trying
of his
to
own work
read a whole
and
lot
like his
more
own
into it
truck
than
and
really was
stuff.
there.
Like I said, it's the reason I
very
opened up the
religious
social
fella
media
tell me
pages.
one time, he said, look,
there's
people
so much
have a
to
problem with
sort
that, but he
put
said most
online.
folks are saved when they had the
And I think
hell
Billy
scared
would be
out of them,
okay
so I'd
with
say
it,
Satan
you know,
did
as long
save
as it
them,
wasn't private or anything.
or pushed them to
I
be
would only
saved,
put
so he said
pictures
maybe
of, like,
Billy's on to
himself or his
something.
truck or the minefield, which I think he would be okay with. And then, of course, you know, the stuff I took as well. So it'd be like his photos and mine. Here's him heating up the steel. You know, parts of the steel would have things in it that he wanted to correct. So this is how we would do it.
There's many ways as people are living.
And then the thing about ending tribalism.
It is June 28th. We are still in Pride Month. Happy Pride Month.
I heard that
Billy Tripp does support LGBT rights.
A radio broadcast in news saying the Methodist Church had defrocked a woman minister for being a lesbian, you know, or for
Yeah.
defrocked, and that's where that defrocked tribalism part comes in.
Oh, okay. And we haven't gone anywhere as a culture. We haven't gone anywhere as a culture since then. Here in Tennessee, I'm pretty sure, we had a high school student have their diploma revoked. Was it a diploma? Was it a high school or was it a college? Either way, they had their diploma, degree, whatever, revoked because the Christian college or Christian school or whatever found out they were gay. That shouldn't be fucking legal. I'm not going to get into it because I'll get fucking upset. But we haven't moved anywhere as a culture on this issue. And it fucking sucks. The fact that somebody can work for years at a school, rightfully get their education, their diploma, their degree, and have it fucking revoked just because their sexual orientation is different. Religious people, they need to have checks and balances on their power. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say.
And, you know, it's like take the frock off of just things that initially are just tribal attributes, you know.
Yeah.
Take the, you know, the frock, meaning that, like the religious cloak that you put on, like, now I am authority, you know. I can speak for God, you know. Well, take it, you know. Oh, this is dog bless whatever. Now the other side.
Dog bless whatever.
Something different. Right?
Based. I like how he's got the little bow wow. I wish he'd put these up again. They're still so relevant.
It says, a dog is an awesome dog.
A dog is an awesome dog,
At the
baby.
time I heard that.
A dog is an awesome dog.
Same thing with
Our
God
dog
bless.
is an awesome dog. He shits on heaven and earth. His diarrhea curses the earth. Our dog is an awesome dog.
Anything to do with God or
Our
religion.
dog
Satan
is an
saves
awesome
things
dog. He
that's
shits
triggered by listening to those
on all
radio
of our
programs
lives.
that are,
All right, I'll move
you
on.
know, down home gospel, Jesus, hellfire, and brimstone sermons that he was listening to, that he got caught up in on that trip that he took. And he felt like those people were self-righteous and, you know, how dare they tell me what to believe and how to think. And I think that kind of all just meshed with the pain he had been through. And his response was to put Satan Saves on his truck.
Metal
yeah,
as
I
hell.
believe him when he said
Billy
it
doesn't
was
listen to metal
a
music. That's not his
reminder
kind of
not to be
music. He likes
self-righteous.
more folky
But,
music, more bluesy music. But like, man, that's metal as hell.
you know, Billy kind of has a love-hate relationship with attention.
It must have been 30 people on their motorcycles.
I randomly
following
took that
me
shot
down
while
to
I
the-
was walking. But it kind of looked good.
Love-hate
Like, I kind of liked the way it
relationship with
looked.
attention.
That's the one thing I will say. Even though the equipment I was working with this movie was so shit, because of the subject matter, because of what it was dealing with, because it was in like this rustic old small town, you know, which is where I came from, the look of the movie and the unprofessionalism just kind of works. It's kind of oddly works in its favor. Could it look cleaner? Could it look more professional and sound more professional? Yes. But would it necessarily do the narrative and the experience of the movie any favors? I'm not really sure. So I try not to beat myself. I know I'm making a lot of jokes about how the movie looks because the cameras I was using were so shitty, but I truly don't beat myself up that much about it anymore because I've seen enough. I've seen it enough times. There's been enough distance between when I made the movie and now that I can sort of see it in a different light. And also a lot of people have seen it. You know, I know it's only got like 2,000 or 3,000 views on YouTube, but you know, it went to several film festivals, had a packed out screening in Brownsville. I mean, people have seen it. And, I mean, I haven't had a single person tell me that they didn't enjoy it. And I feel really fortunate in that. I'm going to take a quick break here to check on the stream. Oh, wow. Oh, there's chats, and I've been ignoring them. I'm so sorry. I've reshared your link on Facebook. Thank you. How did you get that shot? Is there another tower across from him that you climbed? I'm not sure what shot you're talking about. I heard he had schizophrenia. Yeah, some people think he has schizophrenia. There's a story where he was hit by a car as a kid and it screwed him up mentally. 10-hour Billy LSMR. I can't hear the fireworks. Is Union? I feel like that was on brand for Union. No, it was not Union University. I can't remember what school it was that did that. And use the proceeds to donate to the minefield expansion. No, I don't think Billy would accept that. I don't think he would want me raising money for him. You know, he's not like broke or destitute or anything. And I don't. He's generally pretty resistant to accepting help in general. As you can see, you know, he's doing a lot of really hard, laborious tasks. And it's kind of like one of those things where you could put the whole movie on Reddit, on that subreddit that's like, don't help, just film, right? But legitimately, and you can ask anyone else who's been in the presence of Billy as he's doing his work, you can ask him, hey man, can I do anything? Can I help you out? Can I grab this? He will say, no, do not help me. He wants complete and total ownership of his work. He does not want anyone else touching it. He wants to assume full responsibility of everything. So he's generally not a person who likes help in general, unless he comes to you and asks for help. Generally, it's not going to be accepted if it's offered. So no, he wouldn't want the proceeds to go to him. If I made a run of shirts with the Satan Saves thing on it, it would just go back into my bank account because unfortunately printing shirts takes a lot more money than you would think it would. All right, let me get back to the movie. Sorry, I've been neglecting the chat. Let me put it on this other monitor here so I can keep up with it. Put it towards expanding arts in the area. Maybe. It can go to the Kohler Foundation because that's who's going to inherit the sculpture when he is gone or retires.
Following me down to the pine field. So we go in the back and I'm like, Billy, you know. And he comes out.
I love this story.
They want to see your motorcycles. They're on Harley Davidson's going to New Orleans. And the garage door was closed. And he lifted the garage door, and that whole group collectively just went,
Billy's motorcycle always drew the biggest crowd.
I tried to edit it as best as possible, but she continued to like, she continued to talk like right after that, but I had to cut it out.
They used to have bike night down on Beale Street, you know, and he'd take his bike, Sylvia, the one that had all the stuff on it. And I mean, it looked
Pictures
like a
probably
bush
do not do it
going down
justice, and I don't think I ever got to see its
think he
bike
kind
in
of
its original
enjoyed going
glory. Because I
down
mean,
there
I was a
and
kid, you know, I
parking that
wasn't
bike,
like
and then he
going
would
out and
sit
about on my
off
own.
somewhere
I
and
only
just
ever saw his
watch
truck when I was a kid.
people look at the bike.
I remember seeing it at Sonic. If anybody remembers where the Sonic was on Main Street originally, I remember seeing it at Sonic when I was a kid, and my mom being like, "Ooh, there's that Billy Tripp." That devil worshiper Billy Tripp. Oh my God! Sorry, I didn't mean to trip on you.
Lucifer pulls God.
Lucifer pulls God, baby.
One time he got a ticket over in a neighboring town, which is Jackson, Tennessee. He had found some
Look at that,
cards
cropped
of nude
porn.
women, and he thought that
Based
was
as
kinda
fuck,
neat,
bro.
and put them on his bike. There was some.
Before I got
issue
rid of
taken
my
with
old
that, and
car,
gave
I
him a
put some
ticket,
like
and he asked me
looter
a
anime
question
stickers
whether I
on
thought
it.
that was legal,
I had
whether
some
you should
people
fight it
freaking
or
out. I
not.
was like, dude,
And I said, Billy,
just
it
chill
cost you
out.
way too much. You just paid the
I'm
ticket.
following the Billy Tripp path, man. I could have put cropped porn on it.
Billy has changed a tremendous amount since
You have
we
no
chose.
idea how
In
good
fact,
you had it?
Beth has been really good for Billy. She has introduced him to different aspects of life and different perspectives of thinking.
When we first started dating, I kind of became concerned about him driving around with that on his tailgate. I was concerned for his safety because all the extremists and whatnot,
Religious extremists.
Frankly, kind of
People who
dangerous to be
can't
doing
deal
that.
with
It was probably okay as long as he was
people
in
who can't
Brownsville.
deal with
But I mean, he took trips out of
other
state in that truck.
perspectives.
I was concerned about it.
Those kinds of extremists. They're a lot more common in the South than you'd think, especially if you're watching this and you're not from this area.
It pretty much came down to
They didn't go away.
you're going to take that off the tailgate, or we're not going to get along very well.
I think it speaks well of the community. There may have been opposition to it, but I never felt that. If I did, it was no more than if they didn't like the way I dressed or something, combed my hair or something.
He doesn't feel the criticism like you and I would feel it. He's kind of oblivious to the negativity and
Shelby, did you miss the announcements at the
brought
beginning
in. He kind of has that naivete
about the social media
how
pages and
other
whatnot?
people feel and think and what they might do and how he can be hurt, and he really doesn't.
I will show them off, try to show them off again at the end, and I'll post links in the chat, actually. Hold on, give me 1 second here. I'll post links in the chat, but I have made social media pages for the Still Garden.
Remembered
so
what it
I'll
looked
go
like
ahead and
when I was
post
a
those in the
kid,
chat
and
now.
Remember driving down those roads, and then suddenly this thing emerges. It would be disruptive. So I'm not surprised at all that it's gotten negative reviews from some folks in town. I'm more surprised by the fact that the city officials have worked with him and that it seems
that was a
maybe
great
it's
interview
turning
too,
the corner
man.
and getting normalized as a part of the
So
town.
glad that he was willing to be part of the movie.
I'll quote
Dude,
one
when
of the
I got an
professors
interview
from
with somebody from the Tennessee Arts Commission, I was over the moon. And another thing I want to say. Let me go back here a little bit because I was busy typing in chat.
Remember driving down those roads, and then suddenly this thing emerges. It would be disruptive. So I'm not surprised at all.
Okay.
That it's gotten.
So you see the chimes in the background?
Negative reviews from.
So when we did this interview, we did it in a park in Nashville, and it worked out because there's Tennessee buildings around the park and everything. It looks good, but the issue was the time of day we did it. There's these big bells around the park, and I guess they started to have some kind of musical show, and they started going off every 15 minutes. And at a certain point, they went off, and they just wouldn't stop ringing. And so I didn't want to take up this guy's time unnecessarily. So I was just like, dude, just we'll just go ahead. And so, unfortunately, some of the footage had like, the bells, chimes in there, but it works out, man. It just kind of worked out in the edit. Like no one's ever came up to me and told me, hey, it was really weird that there was bells and chimes in the footage of that interview. Just the way that the mind field aura is and the sounds of metal whenever you're in the mind field, and sort of what's shown off in the movie of sounds from the mind field, which I recorded, standing in the mind field. It just kind of all works.
Some folks
kinda
in town, I'm more
together.
surprised by
when I put it together. I was surprised by how not jarring
and
the inclusion of those
it
chimes
seems maybe
was.
it's turning the corner and getting normalized as a part of the town.
And it segues really nicely into like what's coming up here in a second about Billy's,
and we were talking,
relationship with church and whatnot.
From Hayward County, and he said,
it just all meshes together.
Minefield. And I said, yes,
it was completely unintentional, but it just kind of all meshed together.
On the map. That was in its infant stages.
When construction on the minefield began, the city put a stop work order on it.
Let me tell you about these fucking pictures. This fucking picture right here. I got so happy when I found this picture. So, if you've never read Billy's books, in volume 3 right here, he describes something called Pictured Reasons. Pictured Reasons was going to be his own documentary about the minefield. From about 1990 to like the late 90s, he filmed and photographed his progress on the minefield. I mean, years and years, weeks of progress documented. And that was going to be like a documentary, basically. I don't know how much editing he was going to do to it, or where he was going to release it, or if he was ever going to release it. But he was documenting all of his work early on. And all of that got burned in a shop fire, which is described later in the movie. And Billy was more or less convinced that he didn't have any pictures from the first few years of the minefield. And he handed me a box of film slides and said, hey, this is a bunch of pictures. I'm not sure everything that's on it. You can go through and, just see what's on there. And in that box, I would say was maybe 4 pictures from the first 2 years of the minefield's construction. What you're looking at now is the oldest surviving picture of the minefield that we have, outside of any sort of private collection, and that's what we were planning to do. If I had not found this, is we were going to try to get with the newspaper and put out an ad and say, hey, if you have any pictures of the minefield from like 1989, 1990, or 1991, please, reach out to, we'd have contact information. But thankfully we didn't have to do that, man, because I remember I found these pictures from 1990 and 1991, and it was like 11 or 12 at night, and I couldn't sleep, man. I was so happy. I was over the moon. So these are the oldest surviving pictures of the minefield, man, and I hope they're never lost again, and hopefully they never will be.
Requested that Billy explain the purpose of his construction. Since then, city officials and local media have embraced his work as an attraction and icon of Brownsville.
The state of Tennessee had a grant for communities if they wanted to put up, I think they called it wayfinders signs. It was help tourists find their way around town. They offered money to local communities.
I had to use a lot of noise reduction in these clips
with the signs that they were
because
put up. So
I had really shitty microphones that I was working with when I was making this, and I would get like this interference, and unfortunately it did it during this day, and so I had to use a lot of noise reduction to get rid of it, but you can still kind of hear it a little bit.
When you're in a small town and you're struggling, you try to find anything you can to get tourists to come.
That sculpture there, that's called the DNA of Brownsville, is what Billy told me. I think there's a plaque there at the bottom, sort of informing people of its name. But yeah, like Billy said, this minefield was a big tourist attraction. They wanted to put up different little art pieces around Brownsville. They were like, let's make it out of metal because of the minefield.
when you're in a small town and you're struggling, you try to find anything you can.
How all of this came together is amazing. It's a vibe. Thank you, Shelby.
The minefield was growing and expanding, and so you say, oh, there's this thing. You can come look at it.
These were other very early pictures. These are obviously not as early. Like, the difference between 1990 and 1995 is colossal. I mean, you saw that picture from 1990 where it was almost nothing. You know, here's 1995. It's so much more. So... but I actually don't know who took this picture. This was a series of pictures from what Billy believes to be 1995. He's not entirely sure if it was 1995 or not. But he does know it was probably around the mid-90s. But he's not sure who took the pictures. He just had some photocopies of them. So, unfortunately, I wasn't able to give credit to the photographer here, and there's one or two other of his photos from around this time that are used in the movie. But I wasn't able to get in contact with them or even credit them because Billy couldn't remember who took the pictures. He just had the pictures laying around. I'm glad he did.
Big city where there's new buildings and structures going up, and there's tons of money flowing. And, you know, in a small town like ours, it's been pretty quiet.
It's like the Loch Ness Monster, you know, you can't make your own. You can't go buy one and develop a legend about your town and then
Love
sell
this
it.
analogy.
People try, places try to do that.
Once
I
again,
think Brownsville
he was such
owes him a great debt
I was
of
so happy
gratitude.
we got him as an interview. And I was not disappointed. He added a lot to the movie. I love some of these metal sounds that happen when he's working on the metal. That's how you know you're, like, brain fried. When you listen to somebody working on metal, meow, meow, and you think, oh, cool. That sounds awesome. I'm cooked,
Controversy
man.
surrounding Billy's work has calmed, and the city's
done for.
population
Throw me
has
in the-
grown
in
to
the
accept
psych
the
ward.
mind field.
I don't know if acceptance or tolerance is more of the appropriate word for it. Some people still consider it to be a waste of good steel. Some people consider it to be the finest thing that's ever happened in Haywood County.
However, when I decided to investigate public opinion on my own, I received a less than definite conclusion.
I'm making a documentary about the minefield. Do you have anything to say about it?
You know more than I do.
That sculpture over there, would you want to
The
say
way-
anything about it?
What is to say? They've been there since I was a kid.
The way
Yeah,
this is
so
edited
it's just
together
kinda
is
like
exactly
here for
how it
you.
happened in real life.
It's just kind of like
I
you know,
just legitimately, whenever I had the opportunity, just walked around Brownsville and just stopped random people on the street and said, hey, what do you think about the minefield? And most people didn't want to say anything, but the few people who did say something, they're in the movie.
I don't even know that it's apathy so much as people just don't know, and they're just busy in their lives, just trying to make it and feed their kids and get their kids through school and pay the rent.
I don't look at it as that being that special. It's important to me. I'm under no illusion that alone makes it important to somebody else, and I don't really care if it's important to somebody else. Other people's importance is for them to make. You know how I like to build in stories to my stuff? I was thinking of putting this either, you know, I told you these two sites, either at the end of the loading dock or the drive-in, or back behind the fire tower. And I hadn't come up with a, you know, like the drive-in theater.
You used to work at that rent
like
one?
the loading dock for the ship, you know, so that helps it sit.
Shelby, I
off to
hope this
one
is not the
side.
first time you're experiencing
And I
this
hadn't
movie.
come up with an idea.
Like I
for
said, you
either
can
of
always
these
come back to the
to go with
commentary.
either of these places until recently. I thought of one if I
It's
put
probably a better experience watching it for the
it,
first time without me
behind
pausing
the
it
fire
every 2
tower.
minutes.
Well, visually, I like that it. See the skyline is so high with the fire tower. The end of the ship doesn't need to be that high, so it does kind of help bring it back down. But I thought of a good idea if I put it back there. It's the terminus.
I know the terminus temple. I loved how he built up to that. I loved how he built up to that, man. I realized that I didn't answer a question earlier. Let's talk about Reaper guy who asked how'd you get that shot. If there's any shot that I got and it's like on an elevated level and you don't know how I got it, the answer is I climbed something and it was dangerous and I don't recommend anybody else doing it. Because that's the truth. That's 9 times out of 10 that's going to be true. If there's an elevated shot, I did not have and do not own a drone. So if there's an elevated shot, aside from there is one drone shot that was done by Ken Herron, but I think in context of the movie, it's made pretty clear that that's his footage. Aside from that one shot, I just climbed.
What it's supposed to be?
Oh gosh, don't that. Well, it had several themes, but what is it supposed to be? Okay, I've been asked that. What is it supposed to be?
Here's my shitty little attempt to make this shorter.
What is it supposed to be? It's a conversation.
Because he sat there and thought about it for probably a solid minute.
Life talking only
but I didn't want to have the movie sit there and stall for a minute, so I just cut away for a second. And I intend
to keep up the conversation. My part of the conversation.
I took the anti-OSHA
and that's
approach.
What it
that's
is.
Exactly right.
I mean, it's in metal.
Billy's not OSHA compliant. Neither am I.
It's my grave marker.
We're doing our own thing over here.
I'm going to be buried down here. It's my
OSHA be damned.
What is it? What is it? IT. That's what it is. It. You know, you want a long definition? I could give you that. You can read my fucking books. Okay.
Billy gets asked all the time to do presentations about his work to various groups. He, quite frankly, is just very tired of doing the same thing over and over and over and over. And, you know, sometimes I look at these celebrities on television and they go through these interviews and you know they are so tired of being asked about something 5,000 times. And he feels the same way. He's like, it's all out there. It's on YouTube. It's in my books. It's everywhere. If you want that story, go read it.
It's a memorial to my mom and dad and to the experiences of life.
I know it's weird asking an artist what their art is.
I mean, what, you want a 2-second answer? What is it?
No.
I think
sell the tease to
metalwork
to fund a drone to save the director's life for future films. Yeah, that's an idea. Hey, I climb things all the time and put my life in danger because I'm not sane.
Of books titled
make sure I don't kill myself. Buy a shirt.
The first volume, The Sycamore Trees, is a fictionalized autobiography that he first wrote when he was in his early 20s.
I did eventually get my own copy of that first edition.
Says not anything of sense.
It's still wrapped in plastic. It was a copy that he never sold or got rid of.
About myself. I was only
the main difference between the first edition and the second edition, and I go into detail on this in the video that I made about the Sycamore Trees, but the first edition is in one book, the second edition is in 2 books because he had to switch distributors, and there was some kind of like page limitation on the second distributor, so he had to split it in 2. But then also he used the opportunity to go back and edit the Sycamore Trees and take out a lot of the swear words. He said that it kind of went back to advice that he got back when he was in school from one of his English teachers. And one of his English teachers, you know, had an opinion of swear words are very often used as a crutch to replace actual meaningful words. And so, you know, he took that to heart and he went back and edited out most of the swear words in the Sycamore Trees. And so that is, in terms of the actual text that's there, according to Billy, that's the actual main difference between the first and second edition. There may be more differences, but once again, that first edition I have not unwrapped in plastic. I want to keep that thing forever in mint condition.
Years old, and
I love the handprint cover.
I was not technically versed in any field to be able to write with authority. You know, not at all about anything other than myself. You know, smallest of sound of any note itself. gave itself enough meaning to try to talk again. Anyway, that's one of my favorite chapters, 28. I have a definite memory of hearing.
I got to see Billy again, man. I miss him reading.
Somebody
he reads to me all the time.
Personalities.
Every time, not every time we were hanging out, but pretty often.
I can do that.
He would read to me something that he's writing, or something that he's reading. If he's reading Shakespeare or something, if he's had a part that he really liked, he'd just read it to me.
I can make use of that.
I have actually
instead of saying,
a good bit of footage of him just reading from his own books.
And then I thought this way, and then I said to myself, this, that, and other. If I would give names to different aspects of my personality, which I think most people have. Blevins
he told me that those figures sitting on the bench are supposed to be the characters from the sycamore trees. Which is why
my middle name,
the sycamore trees and the characters' names are hanging off because they're like fishing, and what they caught was, the title of the book and their own names.
In my little group, our little group, we gave each other's nicknames, just for whatever. And mine was Clarence.
We're 2 hours into the stream, but only 35 minutes into the movie. I need to stop pausing it so much, or else we're never going to get through.
What life was about at a very core level. He recognized those different parts.
I'm prepared, though, even if it takes 4 hours. I'll go to my kitchen and grab some snacks.
Entities. So, if you're going to write a fictional novel, why not just name them and give them a space?
Billy's childhood bed, as mentioned in the sycamore trees, hangs from the Mindfield's potted plant. Begin, the first and last word of the book, marks his place of burial. The Mindfield Years Volumes 3, 4, and Pre-Volume 1 are journals that Billy has written throughout his life. But originally, every volume continued the story of the sycamore trees.
So he's got it aimed at the star, and out of the corner of his eye, he sees the big star sign flicker on and off.
The Mindfield Years as a series, as a series of books, is so important to Billy's work that I could not dedicate runtime of the movie to it. It was important to Billy, therefore it was important to me, And also, by the time I had approached Billy about making this, I was already reading his books, and I was quite enjoying them, So I wasn't not going to include them. I wanted this movie to be as comprehensive as I could feasibly make it. And so I was not going to exclude them ever. And as you can see, the books are incredibly integral to understanding the sculpture and the things that are within the sculpture. That without reading the books or knowing that those books are there or the content of those books, it just all seems random, until you realize that the books and the sculpture are kind of like mirrors of each other. They're both autobiographies. It's just one's a sculpture and one's a narrative in written form.
Let's see, like that. That's the start of one.
Man.
Yeah, it was such a pretty start.
The fire that I mentioned earlier that burned all of his documentation from the first decade of him making the Mindfield also burned, these other books that he never finished. That was one thing, dude. This was once again in 2022, winter 2022, before he started work on the Terminus Temple. When I was there that day and he decided to pull out the charred remains of Volume 2, man, I was so excited. I was so happy to have filmed that,
In the spring of '85,
I'm glad he kept it.
Of Billy Green began.
And my understanding is he did rewrite these to some extent. He's just, not interested in continuing.
Billy's series of books documents his many artistic endeavors. He attended art classes at Jackson State and the University of Memphis, as well as 6 weeks of welding school. In all 3 cases, he dropped out of school to study the subjects on his own. These self-studies led to endeavors in painting, sculpture,
I had to
and
get
poetry.
really creative with how I showed the paintings and sculptures to show off as many as possible. But even with what I did on screen there, that is not even a tenth of what he did when he was a teenager and a young adult. Like, I have pictures upon pictures upon pictures of different sculptures and paintings that Billy made when he was in college and right after college. Like, he made so much stuff. It's a lot, man. I never did it, but at one time I thought about legitimately just creating a slideshow accompanied with like stock music. And it probably would have been like 20-30 minutes long with all the pictures that I have of his early work. You've got to read those books. If you're going to read the books, what I'll say is before you read the sycamore trees, you need to watch my primer video on the sycamore trees. You don't have to watch the whole thing because I do kind of go into spoilers to explain the whole book, but I would recommend watching the first 10 minutes because I explain basically what the book is. And give you enough information to understand what you're reading if you're going to read it. Because the book itself has no synopsis and no preparation for how it's written. And it's written in a very unique way. It sort of, obviously is detailed in the movie a little bit, but I give a more thorough explanation for how the book is written and how it's supposed to be understood in that video I made about the sycamore trees. So if you read that book in particular, make sure you watch the first 10 minutes of that video before diving in. Otherwise, you will be extremely lost, as I was when I first started reading it. Until I asked Billy, and he kind of explained it for me.
My mom.
Uh-huh. Which he doesn't usually do.
Wow.
I told Beth that he explained the sycamore trees to me, and she was shocked. She was like, when I met him and asked him to explain the sycamore trees, he just was like, I'm not explaining anything. Figure it out.
All these really don't
basically
have
is
much,
my understanding of to summarize what she said, is basically their conversation when she asked that question.
To be filled up, Nobody.
I really like these sculptures.
Perfect.
That's speaking of Beth. Beth doesn't like these. She thinks they're creepy.
If you want to call it a defect,
I like them though. I think they look neat.
The title is like "Upon the Brink I Stand."
I think all of his sculptures
on
are
the
neat.
Edge of something.
Billy, I know you're going to be
Just
watching this
standing
later.
there,
I just think you need to know you are a neat person. You are very
I
neat.
mentioned that. Mother and father and 3 boys.
I think that's probably been made evident. My opinion on that matter has already been made evident, but just to reiterate.
Backbone or something, They got kind of abstract. There's another one.
Look at all these sculptures, man. He's just got them everywhere. Everywhere.
Billy kept his various metal
all
sculptures
those
in
are
an empty
sculptures.
patch of land on his father's property. After attaining structural beams, a framework was erected and adorned with his sculptures. This project slowly grew into the mind field. His many early pieces are still frequently incorporated into various parts of the larger sculpture.
It's all about an internal story that I think
Scruton.
is largely unappreciated by people who see the Mine Tower, the personal human aspect
He lives
of it.
in Pennsylvania, and I didn't have the money to go fly out to go see him just for an interview. So we just did a Zoom call, and I filmed the Zoom call. I just screen recorded the Zoom call, which is why the background is all blurry and crap, because he didn't want the inside of his house, on the Zoom call, I guess. So, but once again, I've never had anybody say, "Oh man, that looks like such crap."
Electrical substation looking.
Everybody's okay with it.
It's his own personal.
When you start out the
narrative, it's
movie
like
basically
his
apologizing
diary,
for its
basically.
existence and saying,
It's
"Hey, I don't have any
really
money.
assembly jar.
Hope you enjoy."
Found object assembly
it
jar on
creates
a
a little bit of
monumental
leeway,
scale.
I guess.
Did I ever tell you what
Okay, I
goes
was
along
wrong. There
with
is a
this?
drone shot. I forgot. Ken
Somebody,
Heron did give me this
she
footage
helped
right
me
here.
to give
when
a
Billy
speech
and Ken
on
were
the
flying these
minefield
drones.
locally, and the guy
He gave me this
introduced her
footage. So
as my
I
interpreter.
lied earlier. There's two
And
drone
so
shots. There's
below
this one,
it says interpreter. You see?
and then
You're
there's
reading
one
it.
that was taken
But
from
I
Ken
put
Herron's,
the
one of Ken Herron's
N
minefield
and
videos.
the second E backwards, because in interpretation you don't quite get the full story. Well, look, she's got one hand back to the minefield and one foot, and the other hand and foot back to the courthouse. So she's like a go-between.
Wow.
You know, I like to build little stories into things.
That's very clever.
And then, of course, he does the MF joke. He thinks that's hilarious. You know? And I think it's crude, but, you know.
MF interpreter.
When I lost my virginity, I made one for that.
Really?
You know, I'd put her name on there. And
Is that the one that's the triple X?
no.
Okay.
It's kind of opposite on the ditch side. It says, has been my experience.
Oh, okay. So that one's about your virginity.
Yeah.
Okay. Got a piece in there
You know,
about
with
losing his
those
virginity.
markers
Gotta love it, man. Gotta love it.
in his life, where that something happened.
Like I said, it's
that was big
autobiographical.
enough
It's an
that
autobiographical sculpture.
He felt
it's
like
beautiful.
he had to express it or mark it in some way, and some piece of metal came out of that. So that ought to tell you something, that the tallest piece in the minefield and the biggest piece in the minefield are both about his mother and father.
Once again, if the camera's shaky, more grinding, more sanding. More painting.
It's hard to believe we've done 14. Once we get it over there and start putting it up is fun, always fun. And it goes so quick, you know. But, well, I'm glad it goes quick, but we've got to get things set up.
So him clearing this little forested area out, you know, I didn't spend a lot of time showing it in the movie, but this was a good 2 or 3 weeks.
Here's where I'm going to put it. So this is really more.
Go into
I
my
don't
studio
really need this
and
out of
just
the
start
way,
building
but-
stuff. That's the goal,
well, I've
man.
got my crane
That is the
here. I'm
goal.
gonna-
When I made this movie, the minefield was always a source for inspiration for me, creatively and personally, you know? So when I made this back when I did, I wanted to share that inspiration with other people, to have them look at Billy in the minefield the way that I looked at it, and to see him and his work as an inspiration the way that I saw it, you know? And then in turn, because of me doing what I did, you know, maybe that inspires people too. And if so, then great. And if not, then hey, at least I depicted, you know, someone in something that is inspiring, that can inspire people to create, you know? So that was the goal. So, and I've heard other people say that the movie has that effect on them, and that can't. Nothing could make me happier than that in terms of like reactions to the movie, because that was like exactly what I intended, you know? But I'll say more about that at the end. Let's keep going.
Clean it up.
But there's a lot of footage of this, man. Like I said, it was a good 2 or 3 weeks of me clearing this out. But obviously the movie would get really boring if it was just him doing a bunch of landscaping. So most of that didn't make it in.
This was a meat
There's my old
locker
Lexus again.
originally, around 63 or so, or early 60s, 60, 63. Dad and his brother-in-law started curing hams here. He was a Methodist minister. I think he kind of got into it by accident with his brother-in-law. They just kind of said, let's try this. It was kind of a side business.
This shot right here, this is inside of a Kroger. I did not have permission to get this shot at all. I was grocery shopping and I saw the Trip Country Hams thing and I was like, oh shit. Like I was still filming for the movie. I was like, ooh, let me get this real quick. I couldn't really show the context. I didn't really want it to be apparent that it wasn't a Kroger. So I didn't want Kroger to come after me. But like, yeah, this wasn't a Kroger. I just took out my phone and got this shot real quick and then kept shopping.
In addition to running a family ham business, Charles Tripp gained significant capital in Brownsville after buying real estate that expanded the property he inherited from his father.
Yeah, it's his parents.
Aware and talking with Dad.
His dad, in case you missed it because I've been talking, his father owned Trip Country Hams, and his son Charlie ended up taking over the family business. They had a ham business and still do. Billy doesn't have anything to do with its operation, but it's still an operation. So, Shelby, I know you live in West Tennessee. Whenever you go into a Kroger or a Walmart, if you see hams and it says Trip Country Hams, that's Billy Tripp's family. That's his brother Charlie. He owns that business. And his father's the one who originally started it. Yeah.
Was very important in Brownsville when I was very young.
His younger brother Bob.
His dad, Robert Tripp.
Bob was such a delight to talk to. We had a very long conversation, most of which did not make it into the movie, mostly because half of which it wasn't really relevant to the movie.
15 to 20 years. When the Great
I enjoyed
Depression
talking
hit.
to him either
My
way.
dad was very, very
and in case it
conservative
wasn't
on
made clear in these shots, this is Billy's childhood home. And it's such an old home that it's got like these little markers out in front of it.
15 to 20
showing when it was built and showing the different families that have lived in it.
years when the Great Depression hit. My dad
Charlie Tripp
was
currently lives in that
very
house,
conservative on everything. A lot of things didn't get fixed correctly just because they didn't want to spend the money to do it.
Both our parents, mother and dad, gave us a lot of freedom. At least I can only speak for me. You have to ask Charlotte. Freedom. I mean, freedom was there.
He's like, curfew? What is a curfew? I said, you never had a curfew? Well, no. You know, we just came in when we felt like it. It's like, you know, there's just absolute trust in that family.
Once again, him hauling these limbs, I wanted to help him so bad, and I offered so many times, but he was like, nope, I'm doing it. Let me do it. I did, though. I think it was one of the last days he was cleaning it up. I didn't ask. I just started picking up limbs and moving them. And he was like,
did not result
all right.
in me, and probably my brothers too, thinking of him as a minister. You know,
it's like, all right, I won't interfere with your steel work. I know that's very personal, but I can move some limbs.
My use
Let me help you move some limbs.
Describing my mental minefield as being church-like. I was conscious of that from the get-go. Well, once it started on taking on dimensions of looking like a structure or building, you know, I wanted that. And growing up, church was a place that it was taught to me that this is something special. You know, this seemed to be taught or presented to me from the get-go as, man, this is, you know, this has a book written about it.
Has a book written about it. You know what else has a book written about it?
Isn't it interesting, fascinating that he's an atheist, as he says, and yet created this massive work of art that in some way references a cathedral?
I mean, cathedrals are gorgeous.
He set up something on this
regardless
world
of your religious beliefs
to sort of be his
Roman Catholics back in the day,
which is, is interesting to think about if in fact he doesn't
artists and
think that his consciousness
architects,
will
that's
go
for sure.
on.
They had the best of the best.
Death.
He went to church, went to NYF, was in the boys' choir. That was emphasized. And
I love that the Minefield looks like a cathedral from the front.
I won't say he was indoctrinated because I don't think his parents.
I don't understand the perspective that some locals have that it's ugly. Like, I just don't. I can understand because it is, you know, gray metal, and because of how long it's been sitting there, some of it is rusting and peeling and stuff. And some of it is inherently, for lack of a better, nicer word, junky looking, because a lot of it is scrap metal, a lot of it is salvage metal. But it's a sculpture that's larger than the sum of its parts, you know? And even those parts in and of themselves, it has meaning. It has purpose, every single part. And if you look at it through that lens, understanding that it was put there for a reason, you know, it just becomes incredible. It's beautiful. It's great. It's amazing.
Control, but it was important in their lives. And I think a pivotal point came when his mother died.
Speaking of shots I climbed for, this is a shot I climbed for right here. Oh man, I don't even know if I can adequately communicate where I was. So there's a piece of the minefield with like a guy on it, and he's got like his hands up like this. Kind of looks like he's sitting down. It's pretty tall. I was on top of that to get this shot. And there's another shot on the other side of this same structure that pops up at the end of credits. I was also on top of the same structure for that. But generally speaking, if I was elevated at all, aside from those 2 drone shots that I mentioned, which were courtesy of Ken Herron, if it's elevated at all, I just climbed and risked my life.
For whatever reason, Billy did not come to Mother's funeral. I don't know if you're aware of that.
It's still the prettiest part of Brownsville. I agree. The minefield is beautiful.
He made his peace, he said, prior to.
And when my mother died, I hadn't grown enough to really know her that well. I hadn't grown enough to really know my dad that well. It was later that I grew to really think much of him. I think a lot of him, you know. And I feel like if I'd had that time as well with my mother, I probably would have grown into liking her just as well.
Kind of distances himself from his mother and uses the.
You can see some tourists over there in the bottom left walking around the minefield. Huge
well.
pile of limbs, which eventually got carried away by the city, I think.
Yes and no. You didn't know her.
I think he just called them up.
Adult, maybe, but you
like,
knew
all
her
right.
as your mother. I think something shifted in him when he lost his mother that made him question his relationship with God and with religion. And I think it was a much more painful loss than he is maybe aware of. But his relationship with God and religion changed sometime around that point.
I feel really lucky that some of these sequences came together so well. It's all luck because a lot of this was, I mean, none of it was planned. I didn't have any idea what I was doing when I was making this. Still, to a certain extent, I don't. I have a little bit more of an idea, but I had no idea when I was making this. And so the only reason a lot of this came together so well is because I shot so much. I mean, I have 3 terabytes worth of 1080p footage from that Canon camera. 3 terabytes, man. And it's like crappy 1080p, man. It's a ton of files. Loads of files. I feel like that's the only reason the footage was able to be edited together in a way that was cohesive. Just because I shot so much. I've been learning slowly to like just be prepared beforehand, and then you don't have to shoot as much because you know what you need to get, you know? That's been a real struggle for me. I shot a lot less for Death Reigns than I did the Steel Garden, which is good because I don't, you know, I shot most of Death Reigns in 4K And I don't think I could have that much 4K footage without massive amounts of storage space.
I mean, I don't believe it's in, we've said this before, quote unquote, a God.
Mm-hmm.
There may be, but it's still, until I see, am convinced of it or see evidence on it, but it's not really necessary.
Like, I've heard of people scripting their documentaries, and I'd be interested in seeing that process, because I have no idea how you would even begin doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Because my whole thing, my whole like approach to documentary and like the appeal of it for me is discovery, being interested in a subject and using the film project as an excuse to do the research on it and film and research it in essence with your camera by being there. By getting into the scene, and creating it, So I don't even know how you can make a script with that kind of curious, investigative mindset, I don't know. I'd be interested to see that process. Like, there's YouTube videos and stuff out there, and I've watched them, but I don't know how accurate they are.
This other dimension, that they're around us all the time, But until I see evidence of it or am exposed to it,
I didn't script this movie at all, that's for sure.
Give any more credence.
I didn't script Death Reigns either, but I had at least like a general plan going in, which I didn't for this movie.
Billy became extremely
I just
close with Dad.
Found out as it went
in Dad's latter days.
There were times when it's in one of my books, maybe in what I'm writing. We were eating out, and he got to talking with the waitress, and somehow it resulting in him having the silly giggles. And that was just so. That was so nice to see.
Excuse me, I'm getting a little tired.
I grew to think of him as my best friend.
Dad and Billy depended on companionship from each other. That was they were always together, or they would go out and eat together. It was very hard on him when Dad died.
He was pretty directionless, and he had kind of withdrawn from the world. His father was Billy's social inlet, going places and doing things with him. And without his father, he had just kind of retreated more and more into his own little physical world and mental world.
And I'd heard that people had postponed coming to terms with the death of a loved one and had gotten through it. So I said, well, that's what I'll do.
Don't know if you can see it on the
and that allowed me to take the tank
this
down,
is footage
and
from
I went
It's
up
Still
to Kentucky
America.
and took it down and brought it home. And I
Perhaps
went
I
at
should
it
move
thinking,
myself so I'm not
gonna
blocking
use the time
text
frame of
that's
putting
coming onto the
tank
screen.
up,
Maybe that's a good
to
idea.
deal with my dad's death.
I'm going to
And
put myself in another corner.
Get done
here.
with the tank. That's it. I'm not going to, revisit this death in the family again. I don't want to do it forever. The tallest piece down here in my work is a large beam. It goes up maybe 125 feet, and I call it my dad's grave marker. Down at the bottom of it, I have some words cut out that say, and so now, Billy, begin your life without him. I was stuttering to begin my life without him, so I was sort of tripping over the first part of it.
I love his father's grave marker so much. It might be my favorite piece of the minefield. He has a new cell tower up, and it is gorgeous as well. What he just finished. I have yet to see it in person. Once again, need to go down there and visit him again. I haven't seen him since November. At least I haven't visited him down at his shop since November, and I need to fix that because I would like to see the finished cell tower. It's gorgeous from pictures I've seen, and It's also taller than his father's grave marker. Previously, his father's grave marker was the tallest point in the minefield. Now it's the cell tower. So I got to see that in person. Because he did a great job with it. I've seen pictures of it, and then Ken Herron, his latest minefield video features it, and it just looks fantastic.
And I didn't know I was going to start a journal again, but I had a lot of pictures of
and there's Sylvia. It used to be all bushed up, and it got stripped down.
When Billy said he was building that
You're going to the minefield the next chance you get. Hell yeah.
All of a sudden, I realized this is not some tacky statue.
The cool thing about this movie is, like, it's already so dated. Like, even though, yes, Billy is kind of winding down and preparing for retirement, he's not slowing down at all. He's already got 2 or 3 other pieces of the minefield already built. So, like, what you see in this movie is already dated. It's already bigger. It's already bigger than what I shot 3 years ago.
Incredible love letter from a son to his parents.
He's an inspiration, man. He never stops. He never
In
stops.
1981,
Every day is a
Billy's
work day
father
for
gave him a car wash
His,
to own and
birthday,
operate. And after Billy
holidays,
retired from performing public welding services
Trip
in
Welding,
the early...
Trip Welding, that's used to be his welding shop. He used to do jobs for the public. He'd get hired out to do welding jobs back in the 90s.
In the 90s, the car wash served as his main source of income for many years while building the minefield. After his father's death, he inherited the land that included his shop and the minefield, as well as several rental properties. His rentals are now his main source of income.
I don't want to retread the same ground again, but also because Billy has made it very clear to me and made it clear when we were making it that he's only going to do this one time. So he's you know, even if I was open to the idea, which I'm not, he was one and done. He's like, all right, I'm only going to do this one time. I'm doing this for you because we really get along and I think you're a good dude, but I'm never doing this again. Dude, by the time we were done making this, I'm sure he was so sick of me. I appreciate him because, you know, he usually doesn't spend that much time with people. He's very introverted. He likes to keep to himself, you know. So I feel very fortunate that I was able to spend the time with him that I did, and I spent a lot of time with him, more than the vast majority of people in Brownsville. So I'm very thankful for that. So no, I wouldn't ask to do that a second time. Sure would not. Because not only am I not open to it just because of the work that it would entail, and, you know, recovering the same ground, you know, there's not, yes, I didn't cover absolutely everything in this documentary, but the stuff that I didn't cover wouldn't be enough to justify a whole nother movie.
Turner in 2020.
It just wouldn't.
This is what you call the minefield garden.
Oh, wow.
I built this in honor of his mother and dad. His dad was so good to me, so I wanted to do something that, you know, to do something for me. So I run the car wash now. That's the historic car wash. When I remodeled it, everything I took off of there, I used it to build a monument leading up to the minefield garden. So everything you see here came off the car wash.
So this is a fun part. This is a fun part. So while he was doing this shebang right here, climbing up the tower, unhooking these pieces leaning against the fire tower, you know, and doing all this, I had the Canon DSLR set up on a tripod, pointed toward the general direction, and then I ran off with my phone to get closer up shots from underneath the fire tower, which is how we get sort of this edited together series of sequences here. Which is also why the camera doesn't follow him as he reaches the edge of the screen, because no one was manning the camera. I had to just leave it. It was sitting there baking in the sun. I had a white shirt, and I just put the white shirt over the camera so that way it didn't overheat and just died. And then on top of that, as I said earlier, that camera would cut off every 12 minutes. So I was constantly checking my watch, and about every 10 minutes, I would run down there, turn the camera off, turn it back on, hit record, and just do that over and over and over again. All day.
I often
while he was doing this.
Dream that I can step off of someplace.
Sucked.
Say in the minefield, step off and just.
That's one thing. If I did it again,
you know,
if I were to do it again, I wouldn't have to go through that, because now I have 2 Panasonic Lumix cameras, and they don't have limitations like that, and they look a lot better too. Love this, dude. I was so happy when I got this shot. How effortlessly he comes
And
out.
it recurs enough that
Like
I don't have any doubt about it anymore.
What he's doing is like so dangerous.
You know, in my
He's
dreams,
just
you know.
effortlessly climbing up and down that fire tower in the yellow stairs. And then that sequence, you know, cut together with him talking about dreaming, walking on the minefield on midair. It only works together so well because of who Billy is. You know, that's all I can say. Because of that, that's his way of speaking. He's just an incredible person to observe. Especially when you cut him saying something with him doing something. It's just
I came to works of William.
This is sort of a little tangent
during
right
the time
here.
I was putting
thought
up
about
my
cutting it out of the
water.
movie, but once again,
Not
I'm
long
beholden
after
to
that,
no
my
one.
older brother Charlie
And
shows up
I didn't
as a
really even know
pilot,
if anyone
and
was ever going
Charlie
to watch this
says, "Would
movie
you like to
anyway,
fly
so I
with
was just
me
kind of
to
like, fuck it,
Lincoln,
I want
Nebraska?"
this in the movie, so it's going
Oh,
to be in
sure,
the movie.
that's a
So
vacation
yeah,
for
there's
me.
5 minutes of the movie
And
dedicated to
besides,
why
it'll
he has a
bring me
canoe in
back
the
to
minefield.
Columbia, Missouri, where Heat Moon
Because I thought it
lives.
was a cool story.
And I'll just make up a little letter or something and tell him about me and my books.
Is it out of left field?
My work
Yes.
and-
Could it be cut out? Yes.
Look up
I don't
this
give a shit.
restaurant.
No deleted scenes in this movie.
This tavern. And ask
Everything
if
I wanted to
this
be in it
guy,
is in
Heat
it.
Moon ever comes through there again, and if he which I did, and if he does, I'll say, will you
Fun
give him
fact,
this letter?
I'm actually so paranoid about runtime that both times I've made a documentary, the first cut, like the raw, less edited cut, is usually shorter. Both times it was shorter than the final cut. I think the first cut of The Steel Garden was 1 hour and 21 minutes. And the final cut ended up being, almost 1 hour and 28 minutes. The first cut of Death Reigns. How long is Death Reigns? Death Reigns is like 72 or 73 minutes. I think the first cut of it was under 1 hour and 10 minutes. So, yeah, I'm very particular when it comes to runtime.
It happened. I gave him.
I always want it to be short and snappy.
Owner or manager who I met there, this letter.
So
And
ironically, instead of cutting things out, I usually add things because I realize that I've been
And so that's how we met.
so persistent in cutting things out that I cut things out that didn't really have to be cut out.
So I ended up asking Heat Moon about something that I thought about since then. I said, well, what happened to that canoe that was in the book? Because it was metal. He was glad for me to get it, and put it up in my minefield. And once I did that, I kind of used it as a way of strengthening a theme that was already in place and beginning to grow, of my minefield being like a ship, or maybe the ship leaving for the next life. The canoe is like under the begin word, like a sunset circle thing.
Once again, my hope with the begin at the start of the movie is, hopefully when you watch the movie, people don't understand. They think, oh, well, how amateur he begins the movie with begin. My hope with that was, yes, I wanted it for that to be the first thing that Billy saw, but also, hopefully by the time you reach the end of the movie, you understand the significance of that specific phrasing of ... begin. And if you go back and watch it a second time or think about it, then its significance clicks with you, and you realize why the movie started that way. Was the hope, This was the same setup, by the way. So this is my phone, and then the angle you saw earlier, once again, was the DSLR. Had it set up on a tripod, and I just left it. I just went back to it every 10 minutes and made sure it was still recording. All those wires coming from it, man. So many wires. He knew exactly what he was doing.
I take the Y off economy.
People are so amazed that he does it all by himself. And
the Co-1 story.
And once again, that's something else I have so much footage of. I could put together just like a 10-hour video of him assembling the Terminus Temple. So you could see exactly, step by step, every single little thing that he does. I don't know if it makes sense, but that's what I was thinking. If I hung to do
it somewhere
what he
down
does on a daily basis, all by himself. It's incredible. It was incredible to watch then. It's incredible to watch now. I say I could make this, I could make that. I probably never will, because like I said, it's so much footage, and it's a lot to sift through. If I ever made something like that, it would be very, very...
but this motel sign,
minimally edited.
That's right.
Minimally edited together is what it would be.
In that cold,
I would just throw it on a timeline and export it.
I'm thinking of putting something out like this. Like I have a pipe through what's there, and then I can.
I wanted this. So this part of the movie was sort of like showing
something that won't catch a lot
depicting
of wind,
how he's not even done with his current project, and he's already thinking ahead to other projects, and also showing off how much other material he has around his field that he has planned for future projects. And sort of communicating how he's aware that he doesn't have enough time to get to all of them.
Pot, the cement mixer. But that's what these are. That's my idea for using them if I ever get them.
Realized it just kind of restated the obvious there.
I have those LP tanks out there. They're like this.
Mm-hmm.
With
There's the fucking
thing.
snap again from those cheap ass lens.
And what I'm thinking I'm going to do is maybe cut it right here.
The diagram beside the diagram beside the one he's drawing is actually him. He was like explaining to me how his setup of the Terminus Temple was going to work, like laying down cinder blocks and then laying the pieces of the Terminus Temple on top of that. Like he was explaining to me how that works.
But see, I take this off. It will be. You follow me? You follow what I'm doing?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, I have like maybe 10 of them. And if I put 5 of them on each side, like ship does with lifeboats. They're just kind of hanging on each side. That's my idea for those.
Oh.
You mentioned lifeboat, but I was thinking of maybe putting a mast stuck in it, and maybe a sail. I don't know, but hope I get around to it. I'm going to run out of time. And this is just what I have to work with to stop.
So the little part here where he said, I hope I can get to all of it, I'm going to run out of time. Both times I caught him saying that, he was like away from the microphone. Like he was quite a ways away. So I never got a really good, clear, of him saying that. So I just kind of had to work with what I had and just boost the audio. But it was very important for me to include that because that was sort of the overall vibe of, me shooting with him that summer was I'm doing all this. I'm trying to do as much as I can because I realize I'm older and I can only do so much. And I have so much I want to do. And I know I can't do all of it. So I'm going to try to get as much done of it as I can.
I don't want to get any more. I don't have room. I need to,
The thing about the minefield, one of its main themes is, as a piece of work, is the relationship and symbiosis between life and death. It's a sculpture that's constantly being born. It is constantly being renewed by having things added onto it. And at the same time, all of its oldest pieces are all constantly decaying and withering away. And then on top of that, inside the minefield itself is a lot of death and life imagery. There are skulls in the minefield. There are hearts with skulls in them or hearts with thorns sticking out of them. And, Billy's, if you ask him, he doesn't like to be asked questions about the minefield, but he's made it very clear that those things are in there to symbolize the symbiosis between life and death. His view is that there's a little bit of death in life and a little bit of life in death, and then of course the whole thing is, as I said before, autobiographical. So in memory of his own life, which he's still currently living, but then it's also in memory of his parents who have passed on. So the entire thing is a reflection of the symbiosis and relationship between life and death. And so, in a way, the movie's the same way because it's about him building something, but also thinking towards the end, of when he's going to quit, which is going to be sooner rather than later because he's only got, 10 years left, in this case. Now, this is, like I said, when he was 66. It looks like if he stops when he says he's going to stop, then he'll stop at 75. Not that I'll hold him to his word. If he wants to keep going after that, if he's able to keep going after that, I will not.
Got enough to be building for a while.
I certainly don't want any more of this sort of stuff. But if it's something that's odd, but still I don't want it. I got enough. Work on it.
Early in the morning that was like 6 a.m. maybe earlier. We're getting into the part of the summer now where it was so hot that he would start working at like 5 a.m. and work until about noon and quit. And so that meant that I had to be up at like 3 or 4 a.m. to get ready and then drive down to Brownsville and film for the day. It was fun though, man. I'm not describing that, complaining about it. Like, man, like I said, I'd do it all over again. If I woke up tomorrow and it was the summer of 2022, I'd be like, fuck yes. I get to go down to the minefield and film Billy some more. Let's go. It was a good summer, man. It was a good time. That's how we did it, man. Frames and a bunch of wires. and a lot of patience. A lot of patience. Mr. Billy Tripp has a lot of patience. He has to do a lot of finagling to get those pieces
The county farm water tank,
to align
you know
together
which one
just
that is?
right.
That's the one in,
The one in front of Dina,
yeah,
or the one in front of the seed
yeah, that I
house.
put a grain bin roof on.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned that in notebook 1 of the, I can show it to you, of Minefield Notes. I'm thinking about what sort of structures I'd like to get.
Mm-hmm.
And that tank was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I didn't get it till here at the last, and I think it was the last thing I wanted to get, you know, and it ended up being the last thing I got. I'd already gotten this. This is my will, and then it says, I hereby will devise and bequeath unto the Kohler Foundation its successors assigns hereafter referred to as Kohler Foundation. Located in Kohler, yada yada. I do like the idea of trying to keep as much of it together, even my paintings, if you can. I've never sold any to begin with, and have given away very few, so everything I've ever done is still together.
Okay. I think it's important that you leave all of the things that you wish could happen and want to happen. We'll figure the complexity of it out.
Well, don't you think it's better if it's local or not, maybe?
But art environments have such a sense of place. They're built in a place. The artist is usually from that place.
Billy
so
and the ladies from the Kohler Foundation had a very...
I don't know, emotion attached
how do I
to
put
the place
this?
they were built.
It'd be neat.
A very nice and agreeable conversation. But nice and agreeable conversations are very boring in movies. So I had to cut it up a little. I had to cut it up in such a way where it felt like there was a little bit of push-pull, if that makes sense. Because that push-pull did not exist in the conversation. They would say something and sort of more or less agree with each other and then, kind of go from there. So I kind of had to edit it in a way where it's not like they were disagreeing with each other, but almost as if there was this sort of like push-pull tension in the conversation that didn't actually exist in reality. Like if I showed you the raw footage, the conversation flow was completely different.
Where y'all parked and then that garage, that's a good sized building. I said, I can see people maybe taking I don't know if internship is the right word, but maybe paying to work in my shop or in that shop or something, like some sort of whatever, art related.
Artist in residence that could be constructed into, you could have an artist in residence space in your shop, and then we could create a space for them to live while they're here for
I used to live here before I got married here.
And so that's right, internship, fellowship, they'll come do maintenance work according to the maintenance plan and keep up the site itself. So you're thinking about it exactly how we think about
paying
it.
students or something
Yeah,
would doing, I don't know, or do their own artwork.
Yeah.
Well, it's also a great place for students to come learn about documentation and museum studies and all of those aspects. So
and one other thing, I might think of something else, but I'm 66, so in 9 years I'm going to be 75. Now if I do live to be 80 or more, there's going to come a time when I'm not going to work on the minefield anymore. And it may be 75, which is only 9 years later. And if I'm sure it's 75, if not sooner, I'm going to seriously think about not doing that anymore. I have other things I want to do. I want to finish my writing,
I remember when I was editing this, putting it together, I tried so hard to get the colors to look exactly the same. I don't think I was really able to do it. And in truth, I didn't have to try as hard. Premiere Pro apparently has. And I literally just found this out embarrassingly so. I literally just found this out a couple months ago, but Premiere Pro has a tool where you can just click on 2 different shots and it'll automatically match them. And if they're different at all, you can just tweak a little bit, but it'll do most of the work for you. And I had no idea. If I knew what I was making this, I would have saved myself hours.
Start, get, not have, because it's just going to sit around until I die.
Right.
So y'all can maybe start on it. So I don't know if I will give you the rest of my estate, but would y'all be open to that?
Yep.
I mean,
it's sometimes it's kind of nice because then the conservators have you as a resource, to talk to about this or that, so that's kind of neat when we get to work, with living artists. So.
I'd like for it to be maintained.
Yeah.
And I'd like for it to be maintained, just to be there for if somebody else wanted to read the book, like a book. Mm-hmm. It's there, it's done, it's there. So if you want to read the book, then it's there,
Mm-hmm.
But that's, that's up to y'all.
And that's good.
And I think Lisa alluded to that earlier, that we don't often get to work with the artists who built the structure or the environment. A lot of times they've already passed on, or their family's trying to figure out what to do. So the fact that you're already thinking about it and we get to have this conversation is amazing. So I thank you for that. It really does help.
Here's the card from my lawyers for my.
Okay, great.
Billy's relatively young, as oddly enough as outsider artists go, and he's actually quite young. He's one of the youngest. Almost all of the art environment people, I'm trying to think who would be an exception, are at least Billy's age or older, or
That's
dead.
Another thing that
Just
it felt really special to make this because, as Fred Scruton is saying, outsider artists, and specifically people who make art environments like Billy does, they're not common, and they're kind of a dying breed. And a lot of them are already gone. As he's saying here, Billy's younger, on the younger side of things, so it felt like I was kind of like documenting the end, the end of an entire way of life, basically. An entire art movement, I was documenting the end of it, one of the last people who does it,
Billy had the advantage that he didn't have to wait until he was in his mid-60s. He had the financial means that he could work on this and get started on this at a much younger age than typically happens. I feel like I'm here documenting this stuff sort of at the end of the era. Not to say again that there's a hard and fast ending where all of a sudden there's none, but like a fading, sort of a culturally fading phenomenon.
And I feel like a movie like this is going to continue to be appreciated, not because of anything I did, but just because of its subject matter. As AI slop takes over, and human artists have to start competing with fucking robots that are putting out slop, which is in turn based on stuff that humans made, stuff like Billy's sculpture is going to be appreciated even more, when everyone's taking the easy way out and just putting prompts into a fucking computer. to make some CGI gorilla, you know, talk and do stand-up comedy. You know, that opposed to someone putting in this amount of effort into a sculpture, you know, into its construction, into its painting, into selecting what goes into it and putting personal meaning behind every single piece. You know, the difference there is not just night and day. It is two entire galaxies. And if you can't appreciate that difference, you fundamentally don't appreciate art.
Popping up in my head are artists in studio.
Oh, yeah?
I'm joking. I mean, it's like, is this what artists do? I know it is, but some of them, but I mean.
I've never liked calling my stuff art or where I work a studio. But it very well may be appropriately described that way, but that's not the way I think of them, and I don't see that in them. My shop is a shop, you know, and my work is just it's a, you know, conversation with myself and custom made things, you know, but it may have an art aspect about it, but I might call it like a holy aspect or a special aspect. But that art, philosophy stuff, those aren't the terms I use.
For the longest time, I didn't understand why he didn't want to be called an artist for his work. But then I made this movie, and then I made Death Reigns, and I had people refer to me as like an artist or a filmmaker, and I felt like, what? What the hell no, that's not what I am. I'm just some fucking dude who's got a camera and a day job, and I get paid bi-weekly. And this comes, you know, I dedicate my check to this, you know. And then, you know, I had that knee-jerk reaction, and then I realized, oh, so this is how Billy feels. Because, you know, I think, you know, filmmaker, and I think, you know, someone like Denis Villeneuve or something who's working with studios and actors and budgets and scripts and shooting schedules and a bunch of stuff that I have no experience in.
You know, that's what allows him to have such incredible focus, because he is so focused. And anybody that has written in a journal every day for 30, 40 years has to have focus.
I will say this, doing this movie and reading his journals.
During the spring, summer, and fall, Billy works every day, even on weekends and holidays.
And reading his journals inspired me to pick up journaling again. I journaled a little bit when I was a teenager, but I stopped around the time of high school, and so I journal now. I don't journal every day like Billy does, but, you know, if not once a week, then every couple weeks. I need to make it a more regular habit, because it's a very soul cleansing to just sort of write out your feelings and thoughts about what's going on in life. But sometimes you're too busy, or sometimes you don't have very much going on, and in either of those cases, journaling sometimes is not needed. But I have picked it up because I did this movie. I picked it back up, and so I do that sometimes now. Like I said, it's very mentally cleansing to do sometimes. And in an actual physical journal. I'm not on Facebook posting my fucking personal shit everywhere. I feel like too many people do that. I log on to Facebook, and some dude that I've only met once, or some person that I know from high school, is like posting about their personal drama or some shit. And I'm like, dude, get a fucking journal. Or posting about their family drama, or like venting about something. And I'm like, dude, get a journal. No one wants to see this, first off. Second off, I hope you understand that a giant corporation is logging all of this and keeping it forever. You can delete it, and they're still going to have it. Not only that, but this is a a corporation that has known ties to the government and works with the government to provide them information on you. So, I mean, all right, if you want to put that kind of personal shit out there, you can be stupid, I guess. It's a free country, or it used to be.
Becomes a failure, he's going to walk away from it.
Have you gotten the license to watch this movie live? No, I'm watching it illegally. I'm doing this under the table. They're going to shut me down any minute. I believe, who's the studio that owns this movie? Paramount Pictures? Yeah, I'm just waiting for them to shut down the stream any minute now. I'm surprised it's been going for 3 hours. I'm reporting you to the DOJ. Please don't.
But for somebody on the spectrum, transition is a big deal. I mean, just everyday transition, you know, not to mention big transitions. He creates a world around him that's safe and very predictable, and there's not much transition. For him, the more stability there is in his world, the better.
It was very important to me to have the information that Billy was on the spectrum at the end of the movie. I don't remember if I've ever said this online. I've said it publicly before at screenings, but I'll say this online in case I haven't said it already. The last thing I wanted to do was front load the movie with the information that he was on the autism spectrum, because what I did not want to do was for people to go in, start the movie off, see that label, and then view everything he did through some kind of prejudice or preconceived notion of what an autistic person is. You know, I wanted them to see him as a person, appreciate his work, and then find that out about him. You know, I feel like that's a more powerful, it makes it a more powerful revelation that way. And it's also more respectful to who he is as a person. And it's also more accurate to my experience with him. Because, I mean, I was an admirer of him and his work for a long time. And I did not learn he was on the spectrum, you know, until I started making this. You know, so it was very, very important to me on multiple levels that if this information was in the movie, that it wasn't till the end. And I didn't consult with Billy before putting the information in the movie, but Beth told me in the interview, so I figured it was fine. And then when Billy did finally watch the movie, he loved the decision to put it at the end. He agreed with my decision entirely. I think if I had been a more soulless person who wanted this to make a bunch of money, I would have put it at the beginning, you know? Yeah, it would have been tacky. You're absolutely right. This movie could have been totally different. I have footage of him, like, during one part of his process, he injured himself. And then I have footage of interviews of people describing different times where he's injured himself. I mean, this really could have been a very different movie, you know? I could have framed it as, you know, him being on the spectrum and he's constantly hurting himself, and, you know, I really could have been a piece of shit, and just, it would have probably been more, how do I put this, sensational. You know, maybe it would have gotten more people to watch it in terms of like, ooh, look at this morbid curiosity, but it wouldn't have been respectful, and it wouldn't have been true to how I view Billy or his work. Yeah, easily could have been audience bait. Yes, exactly. That I wanted it to be respectful. I wanted it to be true to who Billy was as a person and what the Mindfield was as a piece of work. You know, because I have so much love and respect for both Billy and his work. I would never, ever make something like that about him. Never. By the way, to the guy asking earlier, if you're wondering the same about this shot, the answer is yes, I climbed. At this time, the top of the Terminus Temple had not been installed yet, so I just climbed to the top of the Terminus Temple, and I was like leaning over the edge of it, hoping that I wouldn't fall and fucking die. blood was climbing the temple. Yes, I ascended the mountain. I ascended the temple.
With no signs that any of it would survive, with signs that none of it would, and would remain as, and remind him of, in general, the body of Ned's work, and in particular, the work of Ned's diary, both uncarried over, both unfinished.
I love these shots of it against the cloudy sky, where it looks like black and white. A lot of people don't like photographing the minefield on a cloudy day, but dude, these are some of my favorite shots in the movie where it's against the gray sky.
Was the subtitle.
The minefield against a gray sky is underrated, vastly underrated.
To the second volume.
Looks beautiful in any weather, I think. He ended up calling it done near the end of the summer, but originally he had spoke to me about other plans, and he may end up doing it. But part of the this is a wood chip burner. Part of the wood chip burner had a smokestack on the side, and originally he was going to have that smokestack suspended from wires on the inside, and then he was going to have a platform under that, like a stage. But he decided to call it quits earlier and not do that. You know, maybe he'll go back and do that later, but he decided not to do that at that time. But that was in talks at the time, and I thought he might end up doing that. But no such case.
So if you want, it take me 30, 40 minutes to get ready. But so if you want to take your pictures of what I've done or something now, it may be too hot. I'll tell you.
Okay. I love he would build up to everything, man. Everything was a reveal. I love it.
Because
and when this happened and he gave me this speech about buying something else, because once again, our entire time together was predicated on this feeling of like, I'm not getting anything else. I'm approaching the end of my work on the minefield. I already have so much already. I'm not getting anything else. So when I sat down with him and he sort of like gave me this speech telling me about why he bought this windmill, it was such a huge moment for me, at least. As soon as it happened, as soon as I found out what was happening and realized, I was like, this is it. This is the end of the movie. This is the bookend. And so, yeah, that's how it happened. Like I said, none of this was planned. None of it was scripted.
In a vacuum.
You know, I just went in and it just kind of all worked out.
It's more
I'm very fortunate for that.
To see and to appreciate other things that are going on.
Everything just kind of unfolded the way it was supposed to.
Things that happen while I'm putting this up. If they were not important, I wouldn't even have them in my life. So I had something to come up, and we made a deal for something. And it's for something that I've always, for a very long time, have wanted to put in the minefield, and I never could find. So I bought something. It's a windmill.
Speaking of things I have so much footage of, I have so much damn footage of him cleaning that windmill off.
Which I never thought of.
Much.
But it's like
have hours
the
worth.
end of the ship. It could be like the propeller, or like the direction. At least it points the ship in the right way. These blades look kind of impressive, don't they?
These blades look kind of impressive, don't they? Love the ambiance, and a lot of other people told me they love the ambiance of the cicadas as well. Fading out slowly. Just giving you time to sort of sit in the moment. Hey man, maybe don't trespass on private property and vandalize and climb on a sculpture that isn't yours, maybe don't do that. That's the message here. I got to climb it, but I got permission. That's all I'm saying. He's a solitary man. Please do not go harassing him. Thank you. Shot, narrated, and edited by me. Put Billy as co-producer, even though there was really no production on this whatsoever. Ken Herron, gotta shout him out. Leo Pillek and Josh Pressure, that's who directed It's Still America. Shout out to those guys. One Man's Art, article and photos. Brownsville State's graphic. Steel Cutter published. Ken Herron. And my old friend Rodrigo, who
just stand right here
I
beside me.
Unfortunately am not in contact with anymore. Back when I had that dorky
let's
ass
get both
haircut.
of us in the picture.
I can't see it, but anyway.
All right, I see it. You're in it. You can smile or nod or whatever you want to do. All right.
And I've got that selfie of us in my living room. So that's it. That's The Still Garden. That's the whole movie. Thank you for coming out to this stream. I had some other stuff I thought I was going to maybe show off. So for any of you who've seen it, you know, the video where I'm going to mute this. The video where I announced The Still Garden. What is this going? Super fast? I think it's just higher frame rate. In any case, any of you guys who saw the video of me announcing the Still Garden, you saw at the beginning where I was climbing the water tower. So this is just the raw footage of that. I was gonna kind of show that off, but hold on, I'm talking.
I just climbed from down there to the first part of the water tower. I've just got more to go.
Your name is
Just the
Randall,
beginning.
WTF, real.
Got some holes over here too. All right, I'm up at the very base.
Like I said, you've seen this if you've seen the announcement video, but just thought I'd show off the raw footage.
Is a little valve.
This, I think I kind of get like a couple shots of that. Oh, Jesus, what the fuck am I doing?
I am now in the bulb.
I just scream and yell a lot.
Woo!
Told you. I think I scream fucking Slayer! Yep, there we go. And I just scream and yell a lot while I'm in here.
I am on top. I am on top of Dina.
Dina is the name of
Holy
the water
fuck.
tower. That's what Billy calls it. That's because
Holy
that was
shit.
the factory that it came from. It was
Oh,
Dina
God.
Lamps.
Oh,
And so
Jesus.
he just kept that on there. Getting tired.
Fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah. Oh shit. Okay. So when I went up to go see Bill Hall, I also visited the site where
He originally got Dina, you know, where he tore it down and, you know, transported it back to the minefield. This is that factory. Most of it's been torn down, but I went to that factory and got this footage. It didn't end up making it into the movie, but I just thought I would show it off. So you can see most of it's been torn down, and it looks like they're probably building something in its place. I don't know why I decided to get a long-ass shot of a pile of fucking rubble, but... There's the remaining part of the factory. It's apparently infested with asbestos, so... nobody's really touching it. But as you can see, it's... most of it was demolished some time ago. It's just a slab now. There's the remaining part of the factory. Oh, there's me walking up to it. I guess I've got these out of order. I stopped to get like a stable shot. What the fuck? Just got just a bunch of bricks right there, and I just decided to get a shot of that, I guess. I'm weird, man. Danger. This roof contains asbestos. Do not disturb. And there's me, like 10 feet away from it. Alright, what else we got? I don't know what the hell that is. What is next? What's next here? Oh, yeah! So this is a shot that I really wanted in the movie, but I didn't include it. So as you can see, these are barrels that say Artist Gray. That is the paint that he paints the minefield with. He really likes this particular shade of gray, which is, to my knowledge, officially called Battleship Gray. But he ordered it so much and in such big bulk that the company that he ordered it from renamed the color in honor of him. And they renamed it to Artist Gray. So, yeah, I thought that was really cool, but having that shot itself in the movie without that context didn't really mean much, so I didn't put it in the movie, but I just wanted to put it out there into the world and share that story with the internet, because I think it's really fucking cool. Hey, and look at this. Look who made the newspaper in Brownsville. Yeah, there's your boy. They also covered me twice on the local news, like on the TV. It got, oh, Jesus Christ. Into 2 festivals, California Capitol International Documentary Film Festival and Hub City Film Festival, where it won Best Documentary. Thankful, man. I kind of alluded to it earlier in the stream, but, you know, I was very insecure when I was making this, because I'd never made anything of this scale. And when I was done, I was really scared that I had just made a giant piece of shit. But, you know, over time, the more people watched it, the more people communicated to me that they loved it, or at the very least enjoyed it. And I couldn't be happier, man. That's really all I can ask for. This movie went way further than it probably deserved to. And I'm grateful. It genuinely changed my life. You know, I'm not like rich or anything. You know, I didn't move to California or anything. I'm not doing movies for a living, but it changed the way I look at myself, the way I look at my community. And it gave me motivation and confidence to keep moving in this direction, you know. Because I made this, I was able to make Death Reigns, which I'm also really happy that I was able to make. You know, I got so much local support, you know, where previously I had none, you know. I felt very disconnected from my own community. And yeah,
emotional experience of making this movie, but also the process afterward of having people watch it and finding out that people actually really like it and it's not a piece of shit, you know? I'm just really thankful. This was one of the flyers that I made to promote the Brownsville screening, which that was another thing. Brownsville went all out. As you saw, they had me in the paper, they had me on the radio, they had me on the news. And then when the screening actually came about in Brownsville, it was a packed house, man. And the mayor ended up giving a Lifetime Achievement Award to Billy. And they gave me a thank you award as well. It was incredible. Beth Tripp did the Q&A with me. It was awesome, man. Great times, great times. So, you know, it's a very humble movie. A no-budget movie. But it was a movie made with everything that I had. And it meant a lot to me to make it. It still means a whole hell of a lot to me now. And like I said, it just changed my life. So proud of you, King. Thank you very much, critic. So I don't know. I think I was gonna say more about what this movie means to me, but it is 10:30. I usually go to bed around 11, and I am tired, so I'm not sure I'm gonna say much more than that. I love the Minefield. I love Billy Tripp. Billy Tripp, if you're watching this, which I know you will later on, I can't tell you how much I admire you as a person and your work. And I can't tell you how thankful I am that I got the opportunity to make this and spend the time with you that I did. It truly benefited my life in a way that nothing else had at that time. And it's because of the opportunity that Billy gave me that I was able to make Death Reigns or make any of the commercial work that I made at the beginning of this year, or make the Autumn Lies Buried music video, you know, that I showed off at the beginning. None of that would have been possible had Billy not given me a chance and let me make this. Because I didn't have shit. I didn't have shit to my name before this. So, yeah. Anyways, not going to keep talking because I'll just get more emotional, but movie means a whole fuck of a lot to me. And if you've ever taken the time out to watch it, even if you didn't particularly enjoy it, it's on Letterboxd, and not all the time, but every once in a while I'll go and check the ratings and reviews on Letterboxd. And for the longest time, it only had positive ratings. And recently, it finally got its one, what you may consider negative rating. Someone gave it a 2.5 out of 5 stars. So I'm not saying that out of bitterness or anything, but that just, I guess that's me just saying that, you know, still nobody has really straight up hated it yet. So I feel really fortunate. But even that one person who left the 2.5 out of 5 star rating, or anyone else who watched it and didn't really care for it, even to those people, I would still say thank you for taking the time to watch it, because, you know, like I said, I didn't have shit. I made it with shitty ass equipment, and just poured a lot of time into it, and I feel fortunate that it went as far as it did, and that people really like it, and I hope people can continue to enjoy it for the foreseeable future, and that it can act as a really good resource for people who are wanting to learn about Billy, his work, and hopefully being a bit of an introduction to outsider art in general. So, and like I said earlier, serve as an inspiration to people like me who felt isolated living in the Bible Belt, feeling like there was no realistic way to express yourself creatively in a meaningful way, or in a way that people would appreciate, you know. I think the Mind Field is a testament to being able to do that no matter where you're at. So if you did take the time out to watch this movie at any point in time, thank you so much for taking the time out of your life to do that. But I also hope that it inspires you to create and not hold back for fear of failure or rejection. So that's all I'll say. I'll leave it at that. I'm dropping my sticky notes. But yeah, I guess that's all I had. So thank you so much for coming out and watching this stream. And thank you for watching the movie. And that's it. Thanks for coming out.